throw your arms across your eyes and scream, man. Scream for your life.
King Kong, because oh my god, D, it is the last day of the week of Kong, day 7. Hello everyone, I am Bill Worcester, aka Zazubaar.
I'm Super DM64. We're going to be here for a while, folks.
Oh, this is going to be a long, epic conclusion to this saga, 7-day long saga of watching every single King Kong feature-length thing, except for the Mighty Kong. Sadly.
This is going to be the longest video we've ever done. We once did a 5-hour review of Jew Ranger, but it is certainly the longest commentary we've ever done.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that this wouldn't be the longest video we've ever done. We've done longer podcasts than this movie. Well, this commentary podcast will also probably be longer than the movie, obviously, because we're going to talk for a little bit at the beginning and the end, probably, about the movie, especially since this is the last one.
Yes.
So, okay, last day. The last film that we're going to watch in preparation for Kong Skull Island, the last King Kong live-action film. King Kong 2005, directed by Peter Jackson. This is not just a big deal because it's the last one. It's a big deal because for Dylan and I, this was the one that came out when we were kids, and we were very young, impressionable young lads. We followed this movie when it was being produced, you little lads, and we bought into all the merchandise. We saw it in theaters. Like this is the only King Kong movie I've ever seen in theaters.
We played the video game. I mean, this is the one. You know,
this is the one that I have the most nostalgia for, at least in terms of like, you know, I'm just remembering everything about it. Like, this movie had a big impact on me when I was a kid, like, especially since, we'll talk about this a lot more in the commentary, but Peter Jackson was very open about the production of this movie because he had just come off Lord of the Rings and he had a huge fan base. So he wanted them to be informed about his upcoming projects. So he kept he kept production diaries that he posted online, and people were able to follow the entire production of the movie, not like spoilers or whatever, but just like, oh, today we're doing this, like this vague thing. And that was my Peter Jackson impression. Yeah, we're doing this fake thing. That's not it. But yeah. So he was very open about the making of this movie, and we all followed it. So we all were very well informed as well. And especially when I got the DVD and everything, and I watched all his production diaries because they're all on the DVD that I'm actually watching tonight for this commentary, which I actually bought in 2005. He talks a lot about, what exactly motivates him, what exactly makes him go, all right, it's 2005, it's time for another King Kong movie, and that's really interesting to me. So there's a lot to say with that, and I have a lot to say about that, and that's why this is going to be so crazy long and so crazy big, and wow, it's going to be an endeavor. So D, I guess we should just get right into it, right? And then say everything that needs to be said in the ensuing 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Indeed.
So, first things first, obviously. King Kong 2005. What is your opinion of it going into this commentary?
I really enjoyed this movie overall. I think that it was a clever way of remaking the original. The choice to make it a period piece instead of modernizing it again was an interesting choice. Ultimately, the biggest problem this movie has is that it's overly long, and I think it drags a bit just due to how fucking long it is. I think Jackson sort of approached this movie the same way he approached Lord of the Rings, and I think that's a problem because you don't need that much film to tell the Kong story. The Kong story is so much simpler than Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is a huge universe that's like expansive and has all this lore and shit in it.
And at the very least, he doesn't make it feel like it needs to be expansive enough. Because so much of the movie, you're just going, I don't want to see this.
Exactly. When you watch Lord of the Rings, Bill, I know you're not a Lord of the Rings guy.
3 movies of people walking, D.
When you watch Lord of the Rings, it's not a film. It's a fucking experience. It's a fucking
Just like going for a walk.
Fuck you. Anyway. You know, a brief walking sequence broken up by a fucking war. Anyway.
Broken up by 3 movies, yes.
Also, like wizards and shit. Anyway.
Lizards? I'm kidding.
The point is...
Yeah.
The point is, it's a huge, expansive, immersive world, and it draws you in, and it's perfect at doing that. And you don't need it for Kong. The original movie is so, by today's standards, short, but also just it gets to the point, and it's very concise.
Go back and listen to episode 1. All we talk about is how, oh my god, it's so well paced. Oh my god, it's so good.
Exactly. It's so concise. It goes in, it does what it needs to do, and it gets out. It's like a well-oiled storytelling machine. This
with
movie,
some
on the
really
other hand,
cool ass fucking special effects, weird ass shit in the middle. That's awesome.
Exactly. This movie, on the other hand, not a well-oiled storytelling machine. It could use a bit more oil. It's creaking along a little bit, and everything he's doing is good and visually interesting. It just takes too long at the end of the day.
Even when Jack is typing at his typewriter, that's indeed engaging and visually interesting.
Indeed, perhaps overly so.
Yeah, maybe too much. We'll talk about it. So me, I watched this like a year and a half ago. I think it was before I became a stoner. So I did it with I didn't do it with weed. An experience that will obviously be different tonight. And
has it been less than a year since you started smoking weed? That doesn't seem accurate.
A little over. So probably right before is when I last saw this. And I remember thinking at the time, holy shit, this movie is a really cool and interesting version of King Kong, and it has an absolute merit to exist. I'm glad Peter Jackson made it, but I didn't want to sit here for 3 hours, man, and I don't think I had to.
No. And it's not even, some movies, are poorly paced, but it's hard to like point at a specific thing that you think should be cut, This movie, on the other hand, there are entire sequences where I'm like, yeah, this could have gone. It just feels like we're lingering on things, particularly when they get back to New York. That should be the shortest part of the story.
Well, maybe we should talk about this in the actual commentary, but do you think do you think that maybe there was a need to go to the script and chop out and maybe change the pace of it from the very writing foundation in order to make it a little more streamlined? Or do you think it could have just been done with, actual editing?
Knowing Peter, I'm sure that he probably did, while writing the script, get a little overexcited and put a little bit more in there.
Did he write this himself, or does he just get story credit? I forget.
No, yeah, this is co-written by him and his writing partner Walsh, and let's see, I got another name written down from my book, Boyens. So I guess there were 3 people writing the movie, I guess. But yeah, he does have a writing credit.
This is a problematic, damn good movie. Would you agree?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. All right. I think that's the best way we're gonna say it. Dylan and I have kind of been dreading watching it, which is interesting because not because it's bad, but because it's fucking 3 hours.
Exactly. On any given day, if I'm in the mood to watch a version of King Kong, this is probably the last one that I would pop in. I'm much more likely to pop in 33 or 76 just because they just go by. They just go down easier,
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good way to put it. This is kind of an emotional commitment.
Exactly.
Because I know King Kong, you know King Kong, but Peter Jackson knows that and is now trying to tell a version of King Kong that I have to pay attention to that's radically different and trying to tell me different things than the original and 76.
Right. It's just like, and again, I think it's kind of inevitable that some comparisons get drawn between this and Lord of the Rings. It's just like when I watch Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is not a thing that you can just be like, well, I feel like watching Lord of the Rings today. Lord of the Rings is the type of thing where you're like, I got nothing going on for like a whole day. I'm gonna commit to this,
Yeah. All right. Well, we're 10 minutes into this. Why don't we just do it?
All right.
We hope that during this extended preamble you have acquired, ascertained, if you will, a version of King Kong 2005 and have put it into your playing receptacle and have gotten it to 000 and are ready to press play. In 3. Hang on, wait. Believe it or not, I'm actually not ready. I have to press play on the menu and get it so that way I can have control over the runtime and go to 000. Give me a moment, kids. I made that so dramatic and then I fucked it up.
We were so close, Bill.
I think that's perfect for the last day of the Week of Kong. Because the rest of the time I've been pretty on point, motherfuckers. Hang on, wait. All right, I'm in. All right, it's not 3 hours and 8 minutes. It's 3 hours, 7 minutes, and like 10 seconds.
12 seconds.
Yep, you're right.
Don't you forget
you know
those.
what, D? We can all read numbers, okay? A lot of us can.
We are going to fill every one of those 2 seconds.
Probably. Okay, everybody, from the top, let's press play in 3, 2, 1, play. Oh boy.
Yeah, I had a standard VLC delay, and now I'm looking at the Universal logo.
Early 2000s Universal logo. Obviously, the original King Kong was not a Universal movie, so there was no attempt to like recreate an old school Universal logo. And this movie didn't do what Disney did when they remade Mighty Joe Young. They didn't like do a modern version of the RKO logo. That would have been cool. But they did recreate the old school King Kong title cards, which is nice.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. This is exactly what you would expect from Jackson.
You want to do a quick time check? I'm at 32, 33, 34, 35.
Yep, we're in sync.
Cool.
So I guess now, in the opening scenes of the film, would be a good time to discuss how this project came about.
Yeah, let's do it, Dick. You've got the book. Read us the book.
I'm not going to read it word for word, but I did take some notes here. So, as we discussed...
Does it explain why monkeys are making out right now? Or why they just were a few seconds ago?
No, it does not. So as we discussed during the 76 commentary, Universal...
You got to turn your version down, by the way. Sorry.
I am as we speak. Universal had been wanting to do a Kong movie for some time. There was the legal battle with RKO and De Laurentiis back in the 70s. And apparently they came out of it not able to make their movie at the time, but with an option to make one later. So they were just sort of sitting on it.
Universal was?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I guess they had to wait for De Laurentiis' rights to expire, and then they had to go ahead or something like that.
Interesting. Gotcha.
So anyway, so they wound up working with Peter Jackson on a movie called The Frighteners, which was like a horror comedy that they wanted to do because he had done so. Peter Jackson, as many people probably know, got his start making like Sam Raimi-esque small horror films. So that was the first movie he had ever made with a major studio. Him and Universal were working together on that. And the early footage of it that they were very pleased with, so much so that they offered him another movie. Interestingly enough, the first thing that they offered him was not a remake of King Kong. The first thing that they offered him was a chance to remake The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yep, I knew that.
Jackson declined that. And then they found out that he was a Kong fan. In fact, the original King Kong is the movie that made Peter Jackson want to make movies in the first place. And they offered him to do King Kong because that had obviously been something that they had wanted to do for some time. And he turned them down again. He actually turned down Kong the first time around because he didn't want to risk, tampering with a classic. And he was very much aware of the negative reception that some people had to 76 for doing just that. However, he reflected on it for a little while longer and decided that he would rather he make it, because if not, Universal was just going to get somebody else, and probably somebody who didn't have as much love for it as he did. So he reconsidered and decided he would do a Kong movie. Now, this is back in the 90s, by the way. So he writes, him and his writing partner, it's either Fran or Ann Walsh. I always mess up her first name, but Walsh. Him and Walsh, they wrote a script, I believe it was in 96. And this was a very strange script. This was not like what you're looking at right now, because the movie we end up getting, obviously, is for the most part a straight-up remake of 33. The original script that they had written is like this weird amalgamation of like 33 and 76 with elements of like Mighty Joe Young and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yet another example of Raiders of the Lost Ark influencing Hong films. And also details from Marion C. Cooper's life. For example, Marion C. Cooper in real life was a fighter pilot before he made movies, and at one point was shot down during World War I. The 96 script was supposed to open with a similar sequence because Jack Driscoll in that version was going to be a fighter pilot, and you were going to see him get shot down at the beginning of the movie and then flash forward to when the events of the movie took place. Anyway, it was a very interesting script. It was kind of weird by standards. You can go out there and find like some
Wonder Woman almost.
Yeah, it was very different. It was very different.
Can I say something while we're watching this? Because I have a comment.
Okay.
I don't think we should open on Anne.
You think we should open on Carl?
I don't know. We need to open on the story, and this is not the story yet.
Mm-hmm.
This is character development.
I do like that opening montage, though, of sort of drawing your attention to the fact that this is the Great Depression, because I think the original Kong, in its efforts to be escapist, kind of ignored the fact that there was a depression going on. This movie, on the other hand, having the benefit of being all these years later and looking back, sort of used it as a plot element to get Anne, desperate enough to where she would get on the boat.
What they're building is a character in terms of New York in 1933, which is people at their most desperate, scrambling to make it in this big metropolitan sprawl during an economic, destructive period where everybody was broke, and there's just people desperately trying to make money, and this is our window into that world. She's our relatable point where she's a good person, she has values, and she's trying to make money. And right now she's trying to genuinely pursue her dreams while also trying to get a profitable career going. She's kind of desperate. This is Weston, by the way. He's in the original 33. He's the guy who Denham tries to get to give him a girl. In this, he's just kind of a slimy guy who gets actresses' parts, and he gives her the number for, not the number, but the address for what is, I believe, is a burlesque show, which is not what she's interested in. She mentioned to him that she knows that he was casting Jack Driscoll's new play, and that she wanted a role in that, and he was like, So, is it hilariously coincidental that she is in love with Jack Driscoll's plays, and, obviously he's the screenwriter for Denham's movie, and they end up on the boat together? Or is that an intentional, this is a fantasy and it's a fate thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a little bit of a contrivance, but I think it works out okay. Now, this movie does actually still sort of incorporate a little bit of Jackson's knowledge of Marion C. Cooper's life, because what Jack Black's Carl Denham is sort of doing in this movie is very much the way that Cooper and Schoedsack would do those old, safari movies. He just goes out in the world, gets footage, and writes a story around it.
Right. I like the guy waking up with the lights going on. See, this is all... Maybe this is where the movie should have opened. I don't know, man. This movie is a slow draw, and I don't know if that's a good idea for King Kong.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of dancing around everything. And it's not even that it's slow. It's that it has no awareness about how much time it's taking and when it's introducing different moments and characters, and it's just kind of like, all right, here's all these ideas I have for this version of King Kong. And, see, this is where the story really begins. This is where we should have opened. And, I have this idea for this version of King Kong, and I'm just going to give you all that as I think it should be told. And he's not really concerned with when the audience is going to be revealed certain things, because he just thinks like, okay, this is when I'm going to do it. I don't know. It's just, there's something off about it to me. This is cool. Again, I don't know. Do you buy that he would just drop this in the middle of a meeting like this? I guess he's desperate. He knows that they're just like done with the fucking safari footage he shot already. So he thinks that maybe he can get them back on board with this whole mystical island idea. This was always a kind of funny, if not really awkward scene. Do you think they asked Emil if they wanted him to shoot nude shots? See, Dylan, I don't get the whole powerful charisma from Denham that I think we're supposed to get in the original. This is more like a guy who is definitely up into himself, that's certain, but I don't think he has a real power.
You know what I think is interesting? He's more weaselly in this version.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
But I think in his mind, he is that guy from the 1933 movie. You know what I mean?
You're probably right. Maybe that is more interesting, and maybe it's more realistic.
Like, he sees himself as that guy, but in reality, he's this guy.
So do you prefer that, or do you think it's just a valued take? Like, what's your opinion on that?
It's an interesting take. I'm not the biggest Jack Black fan in the world, so I mean, and seeing him in anything, I'm always kind of 50-50 on.
Obviously, this is a very different role for him. You mentioned the Orson Welles thing before we started recording. The fact that he based his version... Oh, no, I mentioned that. He based his version of Carl Denham on Orson Welles. I can see that in the way he's dressed. Like, he's clearly basing his performance and his look on Orson Welles. But Orson Welles definitely had a power to him, wouldn't you agree? Orson Welles was definitely a Carl Denham type. I don't get that from this performance.
You know who might have been a better Carl Denham?
What?
Who might have been able to pull off everything that Jack Black is trying to pull off, but maybe done it just a little bit better?
Who?
Imagine fucking Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He would have been really good, yeah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it would have been perfect, because that was before he was a corpse.
Yeah, maybe I just don't get the... Maybe I'm just not getting the right performance from him. I don't know. I think there's something in the writing, too, that makes him more Weasley. Do you agree that it's in the writing? It's not just in his performance? It's not all his fault?
Yeah, and no, I think he gets better as the movie progresses.
Well, yeah, once he gets on the island, he's got a lot more to do, yeah.
I start to like him a lot more, especially in the middle of the movie when they're on the island, and you get to the part where he pretty much realizes that he's fucked up. And then his delivery of the final line is pretty spot on. That's probably the best bit of him in the entire movie.
So, the idea is that he's obviously kind of self-financing here, which I like. That's the idea in the original and in all the versions, is that he's like this guy who he puts his money where his mouth is. But again, I get this really Weasley sense from him that he knows that he's obviously digging himself into a hole here because he knows he can't pay anybody, which is more realistic. Do you like that he's totally broke and he can't really pay anybody what he's supposed to pay them?
Yeah, it's fine. It kind of reminds. It's almost like he's a little bit of in the situation that he was in Son of Kong in the original version. You know, he's kind of in that place, but
Alrighty.
Like financial. But before he's even gone to the island. So I was talking earlier about the backstory of how all this came to be. So yeah, it's the mid to late 90s. They've got this weird-ass Kong script. And it's not like Universal looked at this weird script and like turned it down on the face of it. They actually approved it. It was going to be made. It was going to be, I think Zemeckis was going to produce, and it was a whole deal that was going down.
Oh, wow. That would have been awesome. Yeah.
But then the movie that they were working on with Jackson, The Frighteners, did not do well. Also, they were a little worried about the market being oversaturated because this was 96, and they were already hearing announcements from both Disney and TriStar having upcoming monster movies, that being the 98 Godzilla and Mighty Joe Young, respectively. And so they wound up canceling the project. They wound up canning it for the time being. So Jackson goes off, continues to do his own thing, and eventually, of course...
He had Lord of the Rings lined up at that point, I think.
Well, that was another sort of passion project that he had been thinking about doing for a long time. Um, so early 2000s, Lord of the Rings comes out. A fucking cultural revolution. It grosses in the neighborhood of like $3 billion. All three films together won 17 Academy Awards, including Best Picture for the last one. Um, it put Hollywood in this place where suddenly fantasy movies could be taken seriously. Like, it was just a huge game changer. And suddenly Universal's looking at Peter Jackson again like, maybe this guy can um, sell a big movie. So they come and they come to him about doing Kong again.
Oh, so they come to him and they're like, we want to do King Kong again.
And this time they offer him what was, at the time, and maybe still is, I don't know, the book said that it was at the time. I don't know if this is still true, but at the time it was the highest fee anybody had ever offered a director. So he was offered not only $20 million, but also 20% of the gross.
Oh, shit.
If he would write it with his writing partners, produce it, and direct it, on the condition that it was his very next film. Naturally, he did not turn that deal down. And so they announced that they would be making their King Kong movie and that it would be coming out Christmas of 2005. The principal photography began on September 6th. Now, he looked back on his old script and he no longer really wanted to go in that sort of wilder direction. He decided he wanted to go back a little bit more to what the original was, and therefore we got the version that we have now. And obviously, Jack gets changed into a screenwriter. He's actually supposed to be based on the real-life screenwriter Arthur Miller, and the romance between him and Naomi Zandero is supposed to be like the real-life romance. Naomi Watts.
You said Naomi Zandero.
What? No, I said Naomi Watts is Zandero.
Oh, okay.
The relationship between those two characters is supposed to be indicative of the real-life romantic relationship between, again, screenwriter Arthur Miller and Marilyn Monroe.
Interesting. I guess she is kind of a Marilyn Monroe type. She's awesome. She's probably the best thing about this movie from the human side of things. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. I think she's the best Anne.
She's got more of a power behind her than fucking Jack Black does. Maybe that's the idea. Yeah, she is the best Anne. This is a good scene. It didn't start out well because again he doesn't have that. I really bought and also didn't buy that she would stay when he asked, like, oh, are you a size 4? Like, with the way he said it and the way he's coming off, I wouldn't have bought that she would have stayed, but she did. And after that, he gets better. But I think that without a Robert Armstrong-esque confidence, or at least a performance, a guy who can pretend to have that, it just doesn't work. And I think that Black is struggling, or the script is struggling to emphasize that. I do like that she walks away and she walks out of it, and the only reason that she stays is for Jack Driscoll. See, cut all the shit with Anne out in the beginning, and I think that this movie is already kind of better paced, because right now, this is all fine. This is all just perfect for what you would have in New York.
Yeah, I think you could have gone from that opening montage into them watching the movie and them giving them the speech, and it would have been a much better way to open.
Because it was just really awkward to just fade from just fucking Anne to Carl Denham just watching the movie, and then the plot is introduced, you know? See, there is this weird, like, fantasy fate thing put into it. How do you feel about that? I think it makes the movie melodramatic as hell. And maybe it is intentionally trying to be melodrama, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to, they're trying to hit that old school escapism vibe.
I guess, but it doesn't feel escapist. It feels corny. And kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the word is. I don't love it. I like that. That's funny.
See, I don't know. I look at this boat, and I don't know if I buy them bringing Kong home on that thing.
But he's only 25 feet tall in this version. He's pretty small.
That's true.
That boat is definitely bigger than 25 feet. If they got all of the cages out of the fucking boat and they just put them in the middle, that would work. Why did the studio call the cops? On what grounds? I love this version of Englehorn, and I love Hayes. Because he's a quality captain, and this guy totally fucks him over. So how do you feel about him?
Englehorn?
Yeah.
I think he's great. I mean,
he's a younger, more kind of duplicitous kind of. He's got a dark side. You can tell he's done some shady shit, but he definitely has principles. Yeah,
I don't really. It's weird though. When I think about the movie, I don't really remember him that much. I don't know if that's a problem. I just don't remember him doing much.
I like that he clearly understands what Denham is trying to do, or at least he has an idea, and he thinks that it is genuinely worth it because he's going to make money off of it. But I also like that. I like that the rest of the crew is more kind of clueless to it. See, I don't know if you need the screenwriter in this. Why don't you just make Hayes the love interest and have Hayes be the male lead? Because I really like Hayes' dynamic with Englehorn, where I don't think Hayes really has much of any idea what the hell Denham is planning, and Englehorn is just like, oh, we're gonna go film a movie with them, and we're gonna make money. It's gonna be great.
They couldn't make Hayes the romantic lead though.
Why?
Movie's set in the 30s, Bill.
Well, it's a fantasy. Who cares? Oh, I like the tribal shield on the wall. See, I also don't get any sense of passion about filmmaking from this version of Denham. Adrian Brody is good in this role. I get that more. I just don't love the character.
Again, I get that more when we're actually on the island and he's running around with his camera and filming shit.
Yeah, but again, it feels to me more like, oh, I'm just filming stuff because I know, I need this and I need this. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is a cool shot. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind as we watch it. I never loved Jack Black as Carl Denham, though. Do you got to turn down your version again?
Really?
Yeah. A little bit. You've got subtitles on, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I always liked this scene, too, where he writes the phony check. So what do you think of Jack being coerced to be on the boat? Do you think that... See, this is all, like, weirdly kind of contrived. There's a certain theme running through this that's in every version of King Kong, though. There's always a certain element of everybody's trying to escape from reality to Skull Island. Denham is trying to escape from his financial woes. Anne's trying to escape from her financial woes. You know, they're all trying to escape from the monotony and the oppression of rigorous urban life to this more primal, simple, natural order. But is it simpler? You know, that's the question that this movie has, that this movie poses. And is it worth it? Oh, there he is. There's the star of Godzilla 2 right there.
Yeah, imagine it. Is he supposed to be the dad?
The father of Millie Bobby Brown's character, yes.
So it's him, Millie Bobby Brown, and Vera Farmiga. I'm picturing it in my mind as we speak.
We are 24 minutes into this 3 hour and 8 minute movie.
Woo!
Woo! Still got 2 hours and 42 minutes left to go. So far,
we would have been almost like what a third of the way through the original by now.
Yep. See, I mean, at least we're on the boat.
That is true. That is true. At least we're on the boat.
It's definitely more drawn out, though. It's more about the characters, but man, again, it's a slow burn. See, okay. See, so Jack is like, oh, I don't do it for the money, Carl. I do it for the passion. And Carl's like, no, you don't. Because if you did, you would have jumped, which is a good line. But that tells me that he's not doing it for the passion, because he's like, I'm in this because I know it'll make me money down the line. That's a good shot. Visually, how do you think this movie holds up today?
It looks pretty good.
It looks pretty, yeah.
There are moments maybe where the CG is starting to show its age a little bit, but ultimately it looks really well.
It looks really well?
It looks really good, I meant to say.
It has a very good overall mise-en-scene. It has a very compelling and consistent, exaggerated, but also accurate 30s tone. This feels like a modern-day 30s escapist movie, which was the idea, and I think that's really awesome. Because it feels like, because of the budget, it's able to be more expansive in terms of how it recreates the 30s. What do you think of this fucking weird scene where Englehorn's like, what are you, a chimpanzee, Mr. Driscoll, or a lion? Don't you think you should be like...
He's being oddly, menacing toward Driscoll.
Yeah, this guy's in a shit situation. He didn't want to be stuck on your boat. I guess he's mad at him for being stuck.
I guess he just I guess he's just angry at the fact that there's a stowaway. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of.
But he's not a stowaway.
Well, he kind of is. I mean,
I guess he got on, but presumably when he got on, he asked their permission, right? He probably didn't go in the back and hide.
No, but he was only supposed to be there, for a very short amount of time, and I don't know. It's weird.
You could cut this guy out.
Completely.
What purpose does he serve?
Well, they're going to the island to make a movie. They got to have a leading man.
I guess in this version, where there's more of a story. See, I just don't think you need this whole component of actually trying to make a legitimate film, as opposed to more of what Cooper and Schoedzak did initially.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it just raises too many questions. They're going to make a movie with two people?
Well, here's the thing. Cooper and Schoedzak sort of put their life experiences of making these safari pictures, they sort of wrote that into the story of the original King Kong.
Yeah. This
one, on the other hand, is more like a pseudo documentary. Not really a documentary. It's like it's
almost like Cooper actually went to Skull Island and tried to film King Kong, right?
Well, in like a really meta way, it's not so much telling the story of how they made those safari pictures. In a more meta way, it's almost telling the story of how they made the original King Kong.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's like the making of the original movie, except they actually went to Skull Island and filmed the actual stuff there. Which
is why, the scenes with what's his face and Naomi Watts on the boat that Denham is filming are just straight up the scenes from the original movie.
Yeah, that's all great. But I think it maybe overcomplicates things. What do you think it's saying? What do you think Jackson's trying to do with that? He's obviously trying to recapture the mindset of Cooper, right?
I think that is a major problem with the movie. It definitely does overcomplicate things.
But do you think that? What is he trying to say with that?
I think he's trying to both remake King Kong and write a love letter to the original at the same time. And I think this movie is sort of half and half that. Um, and maybe it doesn't always blend together so well.
I just think that it overcomplicates things, and maybe it's too self-analytical as opposed to telling a story. Do you think that maybe this movie is too up its own ass?
Perhaps. Do you think you would have rather the '90s movie have gotten made? Because at the very least, you could say, well, it's a different movie.
I kind of would, yeah. I would have liked to have gotten both. I wish that Jackson, when he left the '90s one, they still would have made it. That's what I wish would have happened. Because I'm glad this movie exists. I'm glad that we have a modern day version of 33, a big budget modern day, straight up like this is the story as it was initially intended version of 33. Because I don't think we ever need to see that again. Because of this movie. But yeah, I wish we could have had the 90s one. That sounds badass.
I do like this little bit. She mistakes what's his name for Jack.
So Sound Guy is here for more people to die on the island, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
But again, I think it's also another attempt of like, okay, we need to make it more realistic as a film. Do you think that this movie is funny? Because I think the humor is incredibly hit or miss.
I think this scene's pretty fucking hilarious.
I think it's okay. I think there's a lot funnier moments later on. I really like the moment where Lumpy starts shooting the dragonflies with his fucking Tommy gun. And Hayes is like, conserve your ammunition! And he can't help himself, he just keeps shooting. Again, just what is the point of all this?
Yeah, we gotta kill time until we get to the island, Bill.
We gotta kill time! I guess that's the idea, right? Jackson is trying to make us feel like we're on this boat with these people. That's the point, right?
I think the idea is to spend some time with the characters ahead of time, and in doing so, get you to kind of like them before we get to the island and they start dropping dead.
And / not like them.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we're supposed to like Bruce Baxter.
No, but he does kind of become a bit more heroic when we get to the island. He sort of flips on the audience where you don't really like him at first, and then later on in the movie he's like swinging in, shooting bugs and shit.
Yeah, but then he changes the other way around when they get back to the city. I did always like that though, that he got the credit, not Jack. And that even Anne wasn't actually there. That was really hilarious. And maybe more realistic. I really like this scene. But again, I question the necessity of having them actually making a movie while they're going to the island. In the book that I know of King Kong, the idea is that Denham wants to go to the island, film it, and then use that footage to make another movie later. That's kind of the idea.
Right.
Which I think is more realistic, so he'll use that footage as reference and for stock footage in the movie. But this Denham seems to be trying to make the movie as he goes, right?
Well, again, though, that's the way that they would do these Safari movies back in the day. Like you would go and shoot a bunch of footage.
But they wouldn't write scripts like this.
Well, you would write around the footage that you shoot, but you would have to come up with like setups and shit ahead of time. Surely,
They haven't shot any footage yet, though. Well, I mean, obviously he has a basic idea of the concept. I mean, I think he has the whole Beauty and the Beast idea in his head already.
Now, this is an oddly shot sequence.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few moments like this in the movie, and they don't all work. This one, for instance, I don't think works very well. The one later on where like they go all slow-mo and the natives kill that one guy, that one's a little better.
You mean when Englehorn shoots that one native? That was awesome. We'll talk about that. Yep, here's the scene from 33, the one that we talked about in our commentary, where we're like, is this too rough?
Indeed.
I had a little bit of a delay.
Me too. I'm at 14, 15, 16, 17.
We're good. That was very natural. I felt moved. So he changed his dialogue.
Yeah.
Good for him. Oh, yeah, I'm a writer. Don't fuck with my lines. I guess this is all okay. I just don't think we need all this shit on the boat, man. Oh, look, he's got abs. Do you think they have any chemistry whatsoever?
I don't think Adrian Brody has any chemistry with anybody ever.
Okay, interesting point.
Have you ever seen an Adrian Brody movie and thought, wow, he had a lot of chemistry in that movie? No,
I definitely don't buy that she would be into him at all. I totally buy that he would be into her. I buy that she would have a crush on him as a writer, meet him and go, okay, no. And then go to Hayes.
That's why.
Who's clearly the superior sexual choice.
You and your shipping of Anne and Hayes, man.
I'm telling you, bro.
I get it. You've written fan fiction. Cool it.
So much fan fiction.
Yeah, the only movie that I really kind of buy Adrian Brody in is Predators, because he's not supposed to have chemistry in that.
I would say my favorite movie of his is probably, I like him in Splice as well. Adrian Brody movies. I don't know. He's good. He's good though. I like him.
I guess he was good in The Pianist. I don't know. I like him. I just think that he's kind of stiff a little bit. You know what I mean?
The Wes Anderson movie where he has like brothers and whatever. That's fine. See, I don't understand what this movie that they're making is even about. It's because it's like they're trying to make the making of the movie make more sense, but it still makes zero sense.
That's why I actually buy him in Predators, is because he's supposed to be kind of wooden in that movie. He's a trained killer.
Yeah, sorry, we were still having two different conversations. Yeah, no, I don't think he's right for this part, and I just don't like this role. I don't think it's his fault. I think that the role is lacking. I just don't think we need this kind of stuff in a King Kong movie. Maybe it all comes together more over the course of the 3-hour runtime that I'm giving it credit for. All I know is that right now I am disoriented.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you feel like you have any idea what this is about if you did not know what King Kong is?
You mean if I had never heard of King Kong before and I was watching this movie for the first time?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I would realize that we were heading into a monster movie just yet, but
that's the weird thing, right? What do you feel like? What would you feel like this movie is? Just like a weird Hollywood, like a La La Land type movie?
Well, I mean, the scene earlier where they were spelling out Skull Island, though, it's pretty clear that there's something that they're heading towards. Another thing about it, he did mention...
Though. That is literally it.
Well, didn't he also mention the big ape creature when he was talking to the executives in that room?
I don't think so. I think he literally just said that it was an undiscovered island. See, they know about the legends about Skull Island. They've heard of it before. It's an old seaman's legend. I said seaman.
Oh my. You, I don't know, man. You seem to be very bothered by the whole making of a movie within the movie aspect.
Because they're trying to make it make sense, and it still makes no sense. And I'm just like, stop it. Like, can we just tell a King Kong story, please? And just make it as simple as possible. Because that element of it just doesn't really matter that much. Like, it's a precipice to get us to the island. And if you're going to make it way more detailed, then I just think that maybe you have to commit more than this, and already maybe we're kind of overcommitting. See, now we know we're making a monster movie, and Denim is even going to say, "Oh, monsters are for B movies." So, do you think that this movie, with all of this character development and not really feeling like a monster movie at all, as of yet anyway, do you think it's trying to go, oh, because I made a fantasy movie and legitimized that genre, I want to make a monster movie that legitimizes that genre with characterization and story depth and everything?
I guess maybe that's the idea. More so, I just think it's a passion project gone awry. I think he went a little overboard in what he was trying to do. I mean, yeah, I think you could definitely go to this movie and do a little editing and tighten it up quite a bit.
I'll be honest, man. I'm not having a great time this time. How about you? How you doing so far? We're 41 minutes in. How you feeling?
Yeah, well, this is always the first part of the movie that drags, isn't it? This is always the part where you're like, get to the fucking island, and then they do, and it's great for a while. Then it almost feels like they're on the island for too long, and you're like, get off the fucking island. And then they get off the island, and then it gets good again, but then they're in New York for too long again, and you're like, shoot them already. Like,
I remember in the theater when I first saw this. I remember I saw this on my birthday in 2005. I went with like 8 friends, and my friend turned to me in the theater, and he said, I looked at my watch. I know what time this is supposed to let out. King Kong has 12 minutes to fall off the building. And I was like, clearly this movie has gone on too long. What do you think is the deal with, like... Because, again, we've always got to look at these situations in terms of somebody wrote this. Why did they put Jack in a cage? Is it just supposed to be funny, or is there some kind of symbolic significance there? It's like, oh, he's living a caged life. Is it supposed to be his caged love for Anne? Because that doesn't feel so much caged as much as I'm really shitty with flirting with women.
I think it was supposed to symbolize the fact that he didn't want to be on this trip, but he's kind of trapped in a way.
Oh, okay.
Jack Black has literally put him in a cage, and
maybe if anything, maybe the human character development core of this movie, maybe it should have been Jack and Carl. Maybe this is how you change this to make this more realistic and a little more detailed. Maybe you don't make Jack a screenwriter. Maybe you make Carl and Jack a Cooper and Schoedzak type of situation. Denim is Cooper, Jack is Schoedzak. Make Jack his cameraman, and that's the whole film crew. And then you have Anne as just the actress that they're going to film in front of all the cool shit. Do you think that maybe that would have simplified things and given us a more focused human story? A triad still, as opposed to this gigantic slew of people screaming at us in 30s accents.
See, right now I feel like he's trying desperately to like make it come across that I'm in love with this woman, and I don't know, I don't know if I buy it.
Me neither. It feels half-hearted. Not half-hearted. It feels like he's not standing on sturdy ground, like almost like he doesn't actually have these feelings, or he just doesn't know how to say it.
It's not in the same way that the original Jack was sort of like distant from him and at first because he had the prejudices against women on ships and shit.
There's almost like this bizarre disconnect between the two of them because of their dispositions. He's a screenwriter and he's not supposed to be there, and she is an actress who is interpreting his material and is supposed to kind of ignore him and just do her thing and listen to the director. It's a very filmmaker's kind of perspective on the whole thing, which there's a certain degree of reason to. I like that Hayes doesn't answer him, because Hayes is like, fuck off, I don't like you. Hayes does not like Denim. Maybe that's more clear in the video game, but it's very clear in the video game. And in this as well.
Yeah, really.
Hayes gets a lot more of a go in the game, I would say. Because the game
Oh,
has
yeah.
a much smaller cast, and he's one of them, and he has a lot more dialogue and stuff to do in the game than he does in the movie.
Englehorn has a lot more to do in the game too. He's always flying over and like dropping supplies.
Yeah, but
and
we
shit.
don't even see him up close in the game.
No.
I thought he was older, like in the original when I first played the game, until I saw this. So, I should mention this. Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie, is one of those games where I'm sorry, I got distracted by something. Where I played the game before I saw the movie. I played the game like 2 weeks before I saw the movie. And I was happy to see that it was completely different when I saw the movie. Like, the actual set pieces and everything are all completely different.
Yeah.
So I was happy to see that. And the overall feeling and focus is all different, and that's why you're happy to see that characters like Hayes get more of a go in the game because it's a different focus. Overall, at least when I was a kid, maybe I don't know. I think I might like the game better than the movie.
I think I currently might like the game better than the movie.
Yeah.
It's certainly a more enjoyable way of experiencing the story.
It's more visceral. It's more what you're there for. I agree. I think it has a more interesting tact with it. It's trying to be creepy, and the game is almost like, it almost portrays Skull Island as psychologically as scarring as it is physically. And I think that this movie thinks it's doing that, but it's pulling you in so many other different directions that it can't focus on that. Like, I almost feel like this movie is trying to be a psychological thriller as much as it is a big monster movie. You still there, D?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm just asking. Just checking.
Just watching the movie.
Yeah, I feel you. So this is all pretty.
Finally.
So we're finally getting to the island. We are 47 minutes in. All right, D, what's your opinion on that? 47 minutes in, we're finally getting to the island.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to take an hour to get to the island.
Mm.
At least they didn't take an hour to get to the island and then stay there for like 20 minutes, like in Son of Kong. But even so,
this is about when we get to the island in Son of Kong, and it's a lot more problematic in that movie because that movie's only an hour and 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Here's another thing I'll bring up. So, Jimmy here, the kid, is reading Heart of Darkness, which is obviously supposed to be a commentary on what this movie is about, because that book is about trying to go off for adventure in a dangerous environment and really just, dealing with absolute horrible circumstances and being mentally scarred, which is kind of like what this is about. Denham tries to go to this far-off uncharted island to profit off of it for his own personal gain, and ends up getting a lot of people killed and ends up ruining his own life. So, there's a parallel there. Did we need it set up in that earlier scene? No. But I guess they kind of wrote themselves into a corner, because later on, when they get to the island, Hayes has this speech about it, and it's intercut with them first landing on the island. I don't know if you need that, though. Maybe it's a little on the nose. Maybe you open the movie with something like that. Like, maybe instead of opening the movie with "and lo, like beauty looked upon the or beast looked upon the face of beauty," maybe open it with a quote from Heart of Darkness. Right? Oh, another interesting piece of trivia. So, Kong Skull Island, the film, which will be coming out the day after this is posted, is based, not based, but it's inspired by Apocalypse Now, with the story of King Kong serving as your big dramatic circumstance to put everybody in. And Apocalypse Now is a rough adaptation of Heart of Darkness.
It's also visually, it's certainly based off Apocalypse Now, clearly. Story-wise, however, based on what we've seen in the trailers, it's sort of 76, but with more monsters on the island.
Well, it's 76, but with Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. It's a weird sort of baby.
I love it, man. It looks amazing. That's cool. That's an amazing shot. See, I like this movie better than what I remember of Lord of the Rings, but I haven't seen that in a dog's age. Multiple dogs have died in naturally, of natural causes, in the time that I've seen the last time I've seen the Lord of the Rings films, the ones that I've seen, which I think is just the first two.
The difference is Lord of the Rings uses its runtime. It actually is a story that necessitates a long runtime because there's just so much to go over and to do. This, I mean, it just feels like they're dragging it out, doesn't it?
In a 3-hour King Kong movie, we didn't need an hour to get to the island. We should be on the island for more of it. See, I think that this movie taught the producers of Kong Skull Island the lesson of, that's what we're there for. Them being stuck on the island is the really dramatic, interesting part.
Yeah, what I've read.
That's what the game does. That's the really interesting part. So that's what the whole story really needs to focus on.
What I've read of the non-spoiler early reviews of Kong Skull Island, apparently it wastes no time getting to the monsters,
which is great.
This movie, on the other hand, has already wasted quite a bit of my time getting the monsters.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. What do you think of this scene? See, I feel like this is mostly me just going, I don't know how I feel about this, and then asking you about it. Because I feel like every scene I question whether or not it even needs to fucking be there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea that even getting to the island in this version is a dangerous proposition.
Yes,
because it's surrounded by all these. It's surrounded by all these craggly rocks. So I like that idea. Again, I just think maybe we spend a little bit too long dealing with it.
Oh, so one other thing I forgot to ask you about before was that in this version, Denham is obviously in trouble with the police before he even leaves New York. How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it. I don't really have a strong opinion on it.
Well, okay, because I only ask because, again, I just wonder if it's another thing that just overcomplicates things. It doesn't really get brought up again later, except that there's one shot where Denham is standing with the producers that tried to have him arrested, and they're all smiling because now obviously he's captured King Kong and is making money. I don't know. I just feel like there's some myriad amount of attempts to overcomplicate things in this, and they stick out like sore thumbs to me. Maybe that's just because I'm as familiar with the story of King Kong as I am, and it just jumps out to me, but I can't help it, and I think that because of how long this movie is, even somebody who doesn't know the story of King Kong would agree with that sentiment. This is cool. So what do you think of, because in this version, they kind of took the whole Son of Kong approach with it, where Skull Island is really kind of tectonically fucked up. Look at how ragged and, ravaged it is by earthquakes and shit. How do you feel about that design aesthetic? It looks very jagged and asymmetrical, doesn't it?
Yeah, when you're on the island, the terrain is all sort of fucked up. I like it personally.
It's a really cool aesthetic. It kind of lines up with 33 too, doesn't it? Because 33 does not have a very basic jungle aesthetic. It's like this very thick, ragged jungle.
But the emphasis on that is sort of very dense foliage. Where in this version, it's emphasized through, again, the terrain being all sort of segmented and fucked up. I like it. I think this could possibly be so far the most visually interesting version just of the island in general.
It was always my favorite version visually, just because this is the hyper exaggerated version of 33 that I've mentioned a few times. That all of the other versions kind of, sort of, every version tries to do its own thing, but they're all sort of trying to balance, trying to do this, recapture the the intimidating and alien and exotic feel of the original natives while also being realistic. This movie decides to do something a little different with the natives and the island. This is definitely, I think, an interesting mix of like the mindset of 76 with the original mindset of 33. Because this is very clearly trying to be a horror movie at points, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then at other points, it's also trying to be this romantic, very charming, kind of whimsical film.
You know, Bill, you can definitely tell that this is the same person who made Lord of the Rings. Because now that I think about it, all that shit on the boat is kind of this movie's version of the people walking.
Okay.
The difference being the people walking.
Yeah, the people walking is about to happen in this version.
But I mean, there's a lot of emphasis on the journey to a place, not just what is in the place. You know what I mean?
See, at this point, I would imagine somebody who doesn't give a shit about Peter Jackson wanking off his King Kong fandom would go, are you seriously going to cut back to the boat when we just got to the fucking island and we're on it now? See, this is the scene that I was referring to a few minutes ago that I think should have been cut. It's very artsy-fartsy. It's very pretty. It has a lot of emotional impact. But again, I just have to question, maybe we should have focused on what's really important here.
Well, I mean, I just recently rewatched the Lord of the Rings movies, and now just looking at how similarly it's done, like I can't not see it. You know what I mean? There's tons of moments in Lord of the Rings where you'll have a character monologuing over just footage of the other characters on their journey. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Hayes is monologuing, and they're approaching the wall.
How do you feel about it? Because I'm bitching about it. You know, you haven't really expressed your opinion.
Again, I feel like he's doing everything he did in Lord of the Rings. The difference is it works in the Lord of the Rings and it doesn't work here. You know, I think he I think because of the success of Lord of the Rings, he sort of had the freedom to be a full auteur here, and maybe not to the movie's benefit.
Oh, one thing I'll mention. So this village is obviously very different from the original, because in the original, you know, when they stumble upon it, they know that there are fucking people there. They hear the drums before they even get on the island. They think this is abandoned. And they have pretty good reason. And what I think is interesting is that...
Bill, let me straighten you out on a few points. This wall is an ancient ruin. And the island is uninhabited.
Dun, 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 dun. And I suppose that there's a German beer hall in there with a mechanical band.
No, but I like how fucking creepy the village is. I like the fact that the islanders in this version use bones for practically everything.
Well, so this village is not a village. It is the graveyard of the civilization that used to live beyond the wall. That's the idea here. So these people are literally like living in graves. They are the living dead, wreaking out an existence, scavenging on the bones of this island. That is the idea. And I think that that's awesome. And it obviously paints the natives in a much more desperate, scary light. But,
and the Oscar for creepiest little black girl ever put to film goes to...
Now, is this
bitch.
Is this blackface? No, I guess not.
No, I think they're actually black people. I think.
They're obviously supposed to be shipwrecked people, though, because they all look like they're different races that have just been bred over and over on this island and all given the same general look because they grew up in the same ecosystem.
Now, Peter Jackson, he's a Kiwi. You know, he's from the down under part of the world. Think these could be Aboriginals, or do you think he just got black people and like made them look all?
But I'm telling you that I think these people all look like different races to me that all just have this general physical aesthetic because they live on this island.
Maybe it's a really dark-skinned Hindu girl. There are certain Hindus that have that sort of skin tone. And the old witchy woman who
She doesn't
comes out in a minute.
See, I think that's funny. He doesn't want the chocolate, or she doesn't want the chocolate. That's really funny.
Oh my god,
Oh,
grandmother's
shit.
a fucking. Her grandmother's a fucking Skeksis.
See, she looks like a fucking Caucasian chick in blackface to me. I know she's not, but do you see the point I'm trying to make with the whole? They all look like different races. They just have this physical aesthetic that's the same because they're on this island.
Mm.
They're all shipwreck victims. They talk about that, and there's a special feature on the DVD called Skull. Did you watch the special feature Skull Island: A Natural History?
Yeah.
I love that. Oh shit! Sound guy's down. See, the natives kill people in this version.
You got murked. They do. They're super fucking terrifying in this version, honestly.
How do you feel about that? She screams in the village, and Kong responds, presumably, miles and miles and miles away.
Didn't they do the same thing in the original though? Didn't she like scream on the beach and then?
No, that's a cut scene from this.
I'm thinking of the game actually.
The game,
in the game
and there's also a deleted scene from this that does that. It's also in the the trailer. They should have. That's ridiculous. So you think the natives are creepy as fuck? Do you like that aesthetic though, or do you just wish they were kind of more mid-range?
I like the fact that they're creepy. I mean,
all right. I don't love it. I think it's a little again. I feel like we're overcomplicating things.
they might be a little overly creepy, but I like the idea of them being. I like the fact that they're threatening though, because they're the only Kong natives I've ever been threatened by.
I don't know, man. Those guys in King Kong versus Godzilla. Oof, nah. So in the novelization, this chick is referred to as the Shaw woman. That's how Denham refers to her, because he's obviously familiar with native people and everything, and he knows that her role is typically referred to as the shaman. But he's like, usually it's a dude, but this is a woman. We don't get a chief in this version. There's no leader of the tribe except her, seemingly. What I like about this version of the Islanders is that they have a very clear desperation when it comes to getting Anne. And I think that that's definitely necessary. They really feel like they need her.
This right here is why I don't go to the ghetto.
See, that's cool when he shoots the native. I don't know if we needed to see it twice.
If you're gonna go to an island and you don't know if it's inhabited or not, bring your
Oh my
fucking
god,
guns
this
out.
dude is still falling. See, that's unnecessary.
Yeah, tons of slow-mo falling.
Ooh, yeah, though, that can fuck off and die.
Crazy black man been here.
I shot him. Ooh. Whimpering. That's what the subtitle said. Well, at least they came back for him. See, Engelhorn, he may be a shady motherfucker who's now stuck in Rangoon, but, he at least came back for him. He's got principles. See, what I also think this version suffers from is nobody wants to be here. And I mean, I guess you can say the same thing in the original, but I don't know. There isn't this real desire to explore, is there? On anyone's part. It doesn't even feel like Denham cares.
I think this is my favorite Denham thing throughout the movie. Whenever somebody dies, he's like, "I'll finish it for him, and I'll donate the proceeds to his family."
Yeah, that's great. Yep, there he goes. To his wife and kids. Here. That's what the guy says. See, that's his Shodzak, Herb. He lost his leg to a sea lion. That's in the novelization.
Does he really only have one leg? I haven't noticed that in the movie.
That's a plot point. Or it's how he dies. Oh, we should talk about this. The pole vaulting.
Yeah, that's an example of some CG that hasn't aged particularly well.
Again, do you think that we're just trying to be different for the sake of being different?
I mean, when your island is surrounded by crackly rocks, I guess that is a pretty decent way to travel around the bay. You know,
I
so
guess.
I guess I can buy it.
I guess. I love how they just put fucking Jack on the fucking table. Sorry, Shakespeare. I love that. Fucking Andy Serkis, man. Great in this movie. Yeah, wow. All right, so we should talk about this. How do we feel about the whole... We don't get a glimpse of Kong for over an hour. That is a choice, right? That is a choice and a half.
That is true. That is true. At least we heard him. I mean, so...
We did. Very close to the hour point, though. So Godzilla 2014 is a movie that I've bitched about as being a movie where it's like the movie isn't even about or has anything to do with Godzilla for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But at least we see him in the opening credits.
True. But conversely, one could argue that Godzilla then, even after he appears, doesn't have enough screen time, whereas in this movie,
That's totally fair.
At least in this movie, Kong is pretty consistently a part of the movie once he's made his initial appearance.
That's very true.
Shit, Ann, you better watch your back. Fucking Lil Wayne's on this ship and he's after you, man.
Lil Wayne.
He's coming for you.
Oh boy. I like that Baxter helped. And I also like that Baxter was like, yeah, let's get the fuck out of here. Fuck making this movie. If I was an actor in this, I would feel that way.
Oh shit, they killed a guy.
It makes a lot more sense that how the natives get her in this in terms of everybody's distracted.
That's true. It's not just, we're fine. And then, oh no, crazy black man in here.
Exactly. It isn't like, everybody on deck, everybody on deck. Everybody's on deck. They're just fucking busy. Yep. Okay. You know what the crux of this movie is for me? Anglehorn.
Why? Why Anglehorn?
Because I genuinely think that is the best casting choice to fit the material on the page. Because god damn it, that dude is really selling that really interesting edge between he is a cutthroat captain of his ship who is out to support himself and his men in his boat. Oh man, that is fucking freaky looking. But he is also a man of principle. And that look on his face when Jack was just like, they've taken Anne, and he was just like, oh, fuck, we're going to have to go back now. Really, really good stuff.
These natives are so fucking high right now, man.
Yeah. That's clearer in the book versions of King Kong. They're always like, yeah, they're mad high.
Well, it's much clearer.
I always like the really obvious, and there's no question, just the militant, like, we've got to go get her back. All right, due
to the length of how long we had it paused, I did have a slight delay. I'm currently at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. How many do you think?
Just about, yeah.
Just about? Am I like a little ahead of you or a little behind you?
I think you're a little behind me. I'm at 30, 31, 32, 33.
Okay, yeah, we're about lined up. It's good.
All right, cool. All right, wow. We got a really quick glimpse of the island. All right, so here's what I'll ask you.
Whenever they have CG people from a distance, it doesn't look that good anymore, does it?
No. Thank God this is a night scene. This is cool. I like the way they attract Kong.
They remind me of that awkward scene at the end of the latest special edition of Return of the Jedi, where you just see the Gungans dancing on top of the Naboo Tower.
Oh, yeah, no, that's no good. Do you think that maybe now that we're on Skull Island, they're like, all right, people are going to be pissed we haven't seen Kong yet, let's get there, and this is all kind of quickly rushed? Maybe that's for the best, though. It is, after all, an hour and 11 minutes in, and we still haven't seen the monster yet.
I wish this movie would rush more things, so...
All right, fair enough. But maybe of all the things, this was not the thing to rush.
In a movie that weren't already an hour and 11 minutes in, I would agree with you. However, given how we've gotten to this point, I'm fine with it.
Fair enough. I like the drums. That's cool. So in the original King Kong, it was a gong. In 62, it was alcohol. In 66, it was nothing. And then in 76, it was a horn. And now in this, it's fire and like big log-based percussion. What's your favorite means of attracting Kong, D?
Well, this is certainly the most visually interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the fire. I like the dark, like, clearly these people are not put together mentally, based on what they're doing. Visuals and the feeling of it. Again, it's definitely the creepiest visually version of Kong. Easily the scariest to me when I was a kid was always 76.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
I was probably the most scared by this version as a child, only because going to the theaters and seeing the fucking natives for the first time fucking freaked me the fuck out.
The fact that you see Kong in the distance there is very cool. You'd never get that in an older monster movie.
It's true.
See, this movie just instantly got a million times better now that I got a glimpse of a monster.
Exactly. I like how the aesthetic of this scene is very, it feels kind of Temple of Doom, but with the giant ape.
I'm reminded of the book Relic, which is something we both read. The Cathoga I always took as being very inspired by the Skull Islanders from King Kong.
Like, I just imagine them lowering her down like they did a minute ago, and just imagine that Hindu guy going, Om Nam Shivaya, Om Nam Shivaya.
I feel like a lot of dark tribal stuff is based on King Kong. See, that's good. I like that they're instantly like, the difference between this chick and all the others is that she's got blonde hair to him. Like, that's a very distinguishing feature. And then her personality is very different. So that's established from the get-go here.
I can't imagine he was too happy before, because all the chicks they were sacrificing before were like coked up and creepy as hell.
Yeah, she's kind of put together, I guess. They're all fucked up. And I guess that was a choice on Jackson's part to make sure that, again, we understood that they're not put together. So, do you like that we don't get a reveal of him here?
You mean they don't actually see him yet?
We haven't seen his face.
Kong?
Yeah.
I thought we just saw it a minute ago.
No.
Oh, I'm imagining things now.
He's been obscured the whole time.
I don't know, I kind of... Ooh.
That's the first glimpse we've had of his face. He's fucked up in this, too. They really made a very conscious effort to make sure he looked mangled and scarred, which is cool.
You know what, I kind of like it. I think it gave him a sense of scale that, for the most part, we only saw him like from the shoulder down, and then
That's interesting. In this version, Denham sees him first, and in the original, Jack sees him first.
And I like that shot just then of Kong turning around and looking at him. That was a good moment.
That was awesome.
Kind of reminded me of the moment in Godzilla where Aaron Taylor Johnson and Godzilla locked eyes.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had our first glimpse of Kong, and there's not much to say currently, so I wanted to say something that I've been meaning to say. Critical and financial reception of this movie. So right. you and I obviously both really liked it as kids, and we had a very positive perception of this growing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as we got older, we watched it less and less because it's 3 hours long, and we started to go, well, maybe it's not the amazing achievement we thought of when we were kids. And as I thought back on it, I was like, I and everybody else I talked to always thought back on it as, oh, Peter Jackson's King Kong, oh yeah, that 3 hour long slog. And I was like, oh yeah, that movie kind of bombed when I thought about it. But then I read up on it tonight to try and support that with research. Nope, it was very successful. It made well over double its budget back. Even though it was a really insanely budgeted movie, $207 million, but it made well over $500 million at the box office. And
I never thought that it had bombed at the time. I remember how well everybody liked it at the time.
critically, it was very well liked. Still on the internet, if you go on all the big sites, it has very positive scores, Metacritic, Rotten Tomato. But I think audiences have turned, and general audiences don't remember it fondly because it's 3 hours long.
Exactly.
How do you feel like these jungle shots look?
It was guaranteed to make its money back in the day. I mean, not only is it a King Kong remake, an American icon, but they had Peter Jackson's name attached to it, who just 2 years previous had released the epic conclusion of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then the following February been awarded Best Director and Best Picture for that same movie, as well as a slew of other rewards. So Peter Jackson at this time, that name could not have been any bigger. Only sort of now has his name been soiled a little bit by the poor reception to the Hobbit trilogy.
Ooh, that shot don't look great. Those CGI trees look a little bit too like, Avatar.
Yeah, there are certainly, the CG in this movie is starting to age a bit. Isn't it strange how the only two movies that the CG never seems to age that much, or at least not in key shots, is they're both from the 90s, is fucking the Jurassic Park scene in the rain with the T-Rex, and pretty much everything in Terminator 2. Those two movies still hold up really well, and everything else is just aging.
Yeah. This overall is pretty good. Kong, he looks pretty amazing.
Yeah, Kong looks great.
So this is our first shot of his face, D. There's Kong. So critical and financial reception. Overall, this movie was a hit. So here's my question to you. Do you think that we can carry over all that financial logic to Skull Island? Because I'm not sold on the fact that movie's going to be a hit yet, financially.
Here's the thing. I think Kong's name definitely still has some gravitas attached to it, I like how she sees the bones of his previous wives. That's a nice touch.
Do you think that he killed them intentionally, or they just died by accident? Because it looks like he doesn't pay them much mind in this part.
I think he might have become bored with them. She sort of has to entertain him later on to sort of keep him on her good side.
Right.
I think maybe they didn't have the skills necessary to keep him amused, and so they died. Anyway, I think Kong's name certainly still has a lot of clout. I think a lot of people are aware that it's connected to the last Godzilla movie, and that obviously made money, and all of that. The only problem is not to mention that we also had the apes pictures recently that did well, and so people like monkeys on screen.
And some of the cast from those movies is in this.
Indeed, Koba said, "Is that a monkey?"
Is that a monkey?
However, I think the biggest problem that Kong Skull Island has to overcome is the fact that it has some stiff-ass competition. This March is just a cavalcade of...
I'm going to see Logan tomorrow, by the way.
This month is such a cavalcade of highly anticipated films. You have obviously Logan this weekend, and you have the weekend after Kong comes out, the fucking Disney's new Beauty and the Beast live action adaptation, which is getting a ton of press right now because it recently came out that one of the characters is going to be Disney's first openly gay character.
Mm-hmm. The Josh Gad character, right?
Yeah, LeFou, the little fat guy that hangs around with Gaston all the time.
That makes sense.
Does that mean Gaston is also openly gay? You think that, or maybe secretly?
I think at the end it'll probably be like, oh, we should just fuck because why not? We hang out all day anyway, and women hate us, so.
Well, I mean, if it progresses the way the original movie did, Gaston will be dead.
Does Gaston die in the animated movie?
Yeah, he falls off the castle.
Oh.
So unless LeFou is into some freaky shit.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I didn't remember. I thought that maybe he survived. I forgot that they could actually kill people in those movies. I forgot. You know who else dies in a Disney movie? Fucking, what's his name? Clayton in Tarzan.
Yeah, that's one of the ballsier Disney villain kills because you actually see him like hang himself on those vines.
Yeah, it was cool. I like Tarzan.
The three ballsiest Disney villain deaths are that one, fucking Maleficent in the original Sleeping Beauty. Like she gets stabbed to death with a sword, and then fucking shit. What's his name from the Black Cauldron? Literally gets what's the word I'm looking for? Like vaporized on screen. Like,
all right, D. Here's my question to you.
Disintegrated. That's the word I was looking for. Disintegrated.
So in this movie, we have blue screen replacing our stop motion and our rear projection. Do you think that it kind of, it's obviously meant to kind of parallel that with this modern version? How do you think that works? Does that work for you?
I mean, yeah.
I don't think it completely works. And I just... maybe it's just because the CGI doesn't hold up. But I also feel like it's a very conscious decision on Jackson's part to do that. And I think that maybe, again, it's maybe another example of this movie just being a little too up its own ass.
I think the CG on the creatures actually holds up pretty well for the most part. It's mostly like environments don't always look that great. Sometimes the trees look a little wonky, or CG people from a distance might not always look very real.
So this is obviously like the smallest King Kong we've ever had. How do you feel about that?
I think part of it is just how old the movie is at this point, because, I mean, all this CG, this is Weta, and Weta's some of the best in the business, but...
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it's showing its age. How do you feel about Kong's height, 25 feet?
I'm fine with it. It's a return to sort of the scale that he had in the original movie, and it makes even more sense when you consider the fact that they
smaller, even.
Yeah, and it makes even more sense when you consider the fact that they decided to do this as a period piece. It's actually not that much taller than, the larger primate species that we know existed in the real world, So it sort of adds a bit of a grounded sort of believability to it.
So in most versions, Denham seems to have known prior, or at least suspected, that there were prehistoric animals on the island. So I guess when he sees this stuff, he's just kind of like, all right, time to shoot it. How do you feel about this sequence here? How do you feel like this holds up? I feel like this actually looks pretty fucking badass nowadays.
Yeah, like I said, the creature effects for the most part pretty much hold up. It's like weird environment shit that doesn't always work.
This part of Skull Island looks very similar to the new movie.
Mm-hmm. But I think the dinosaurs in it, for the most part, look pretty good.
Yeah, totally.
I like the fact that they didn't just do dinosaurs that we're familiar with either. They made a conscious effort to actually take dinosaur types and then evolve them into the modern day. So when you see King Kong fighting it's not a T-Rex, it's a V-Rex, which is supposed to be, what a T-Rex might look like if it had survived and kept evolving.
That was always an awesome idea that I loved, and it gave this movie a very unique and different feel. And it's not just Jurassic Park with a big ape in it.
You look at these creatures, they're obviously sauropods, but the necks are actually kind of short for what you would expect from a sauropod,
They're smaller. They're more like what you would expect on a cramped island setting.
Exactly. I really like that idea that they went that deep into thinking about the ecology of the island and how everything would have evolved.
Read the book and watch the documentary, man, The World of Kong, the natural history of Skull Island.
It's probably my favorite aspect of the production, actually, is how much thought they put into the world building of the island itself. If only we had gotten there quicker.
This is obviously our kind of analog for the Stegosaurus scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's also our log. You know what, D? I feel like all of the shit that, like they almost, like, cut more out of the Skull Island shit than they did the fucking... the boat scene, or the boat sequence. Like, here we are, we're an hour and 26 minutes in now. And Jackson created a lot more direct analogs for certain sequences in the original version. And they just got cut out of the movie. And like there was a raft sequence and all kinds of stuff that got cut out. And this version has a more condensed version of Skull Island by comparison to what was cut out, as opposed to the boat stuff and the New York stuff, which just feels like, what didn't we cut out? Oh no,
yeah, really.
No, I'm sorry. What could we have cut out, as opposed to what was anything cut out? Like, cut something out. I don't know. unbalanced in the editing room, I think. When they got stepped on there, that looked pretty good. Ooh, these Velociraptor analogs I always loved, the Venatosaurs.
Yeah, they're fucking great in the game.
Yeah,
and by great, I'm frustrating.
Well, what's good is they're 3-shot kills, but they're fast. And they're leapers like Velociraptors would be.
Yeah, 3-shot kills is fine when you got a gun, but when you're down to spears, it's ugh.
That looks awesome. Did you wish there were maybe more practical effects in this?
You notice how the eyes on the Venatosaur heads are kind of bulging out from the face a little bit, almost like frog eyes? That's interesting.
Frog DNA. Used to close the gene sequence gaps.
What was your question?
Do you wish there was more practical effects?
I mean, yeah, sure, that would be great, you know.
Jack just fucked that T-Rex up. Holy shit, and somebody just killed that fucking Brontosaurus. That's what these are, right? They're Brontosauruses.
Well, they're Brontosaurus analogs.
I think that's what they're called, though. In the game, that's what they're called.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I think they're just Brontosauruses. Because Brontosauruses are not... Well, no, they're back to being a real dinosaur, right? They're a subspecies of Apatosaur?
Yeah, because...
And Diplodocus?
That whole thing's kind of been a shit show. I thought
paleontology is kind of a shit show in general.
I always thought, though, traditionally the Brontosaurus had a bit of a longer neck, though.
See, here's the beautiful thing about the way Jackson directs. We get all that really in-depth, engrossing stuff with the attempt at the human characters earlier, and it was really hit and miss. Now we get to see it with action stuff, and it's really cool. Oh my! Is this too over the top? Because look at this, just pile and piles and piles of dinosaurs.
Yeah, that does feel a bit excessive, maybe. Excess. That's ultimately the problem. Excess.
Here's where the guy's fake leg is going to be a plot point, by the way, Herb. This is a scene of contention for me. It always was when I was a kid. So, Is he trying to save the tripod, or is he trying to save Herb?
I think they're trying to use the tripod as something to pull Herb up with, because they can't reach each other. Going to donate the proceeds to his family.
Yeah, that's going to be mentioned. This is kind of our first really good glimpse at Kong in the daylight. So do you feel like it's kind of intentional that prior to this she's just kind of gotten this shaky, like really terrifying glimpse of him? And now in the daylight he's kind of calm and reserved and everything?
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
I like that she plays dead. I really like her. I feel like we get distanced from her a lot in this movie, though.
Now here, in terms of Kong's performance, we have some wonderful motion capture work from Andy Serkis. I think that really works. Ultimately, the version of Kong that's presented in this movie is quite well done, I think. How do you feel about the fact that he's pretty much just a big gorilla, though? He doesn't have... I was
literally just about to ask you that same question, so I guess this is a good time to talk about that. Although this is also the scene where they cut out the boat scene, by the way. So the whole gorilla thing, let's talk about it. Peter Jackson and Andy Serkis studied actual gorillas in the production of this movie, and that was really impressive to me when I was a kid. I really appreciated that, and that was a big point of contention that I brought up when I was like, oh, this movie is going to be so much better than 76 when I described it to people. But now, sorry, I got distracted. But now, I don't know. So how do you feel about it? Because I appreciate the direction of it, and it's one of those things where I appreciate that they did it because they knew they had the technology to finally make it look cool. 76, they tried to do a realistic ape with the suitimation and the face design, you know. But this movie, it's trying to do that with the CGI. So as we were trying to talk about before we were rudely interrupted, I think this movie, it works very, very well that Kong is a gorilla. It worked well for the motion capture. It gave them a real direction to go in with it, and I think it looks really cool. But overall, I prefer a Kong that is more of his own thing, his own kind of distinct species of ape, that is kind of a mix of more monstrous elements of a couple of different kinds of apes, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with it partially because it's just, it's a different version than the ones we've seen before, so it's kind of nice that this version stands out from the crowd in that way. And I mean, I understand that Jackson was trying to make this movie more sort of grounded in reality in terms of, the island and all of that. So I get it.
I like that he's just eating bamboo. That's a nice effect.
Yeah. Ultimately, though, yeah, I definitely prefer, the way Skull Island Kong looks is pretty perfect for me. Although I always prefer the black fur over the brown fur, but whatever.
Like, that shot really there, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Andy Serkis just infuses so much personality into the character.
Yeah, he does. His performance really, just like Caesar, elevates his character into having a real identity as opposed to just being a big special effect.
Even though he, even more so than Caesar, has no dialogue.
And obviously his intelligence is a lot less human.
Exactly. But everything he does just has to come through mostly facial performance when you're close up on him.
And through his actions, obviously. What he punches and when.
Yeah, exactly.
Does his being so much of a gorilla make him feel less like King Kong to you?
No, not really.
Okay. When I was a kid, I kind of thought that at points, but I'm not saying I feel that way now. I'm just asking. Because, again, it definitely makes him... He's a different thing than we've ever seen him before, certainly. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
This is a different form of Kong than we've ever seen.
To me, he always looked like fucking the dad gorilla from Tarzan.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Yeah. Kojak or whatever? No, I don't think his name was Kojak.
It was like Kerchak or something like that.
Kerchak, yeah. Tarzan. He was like mean Mufasa.
Yeah. He's not one of us.
This is a great scene. Because, again, see, don't you think that Jackson really should have established a fine line between, all right, this is the really interesting stuff. We need to get this character to this place as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But rather, this movie is just, here's everything. You know what I'm kind of saying?
Yeah.
Here's one interesting problem with this movie. So, why is the sea around the island completely clear? We don't see the fog bank or anything? Does that just roll in at night and then dissipate during the day?
That's a good point. I don't know. Maybe it comes and goes.
Maybe. What I was saying, though, was that this is all really interesting. The way they really that she has to really build a relationship with him in order to survive. That's awesome. And she really develops a relationship with him, and he develops a relationship with her, and it makes the whole tragedy of it a lot more genuine, and this movie a much more, emotional experience. Because this obviously attempts to be the most, emotionally resonant version of this story. We'll talk about whether or not it succeeds at that. But obviously, this is all an attempt to show that she's trying to get through to him, and I think it's really good. All that's amazing.
Also, like here in a minute when he takes it too far and starts knocking her over.
Yeah. See, this version definitely doesn't water him down, which is cool.
Yeah.
You know, I think that you might be able to look at some of the shots in this movie and argue that it looks better than what we've seen from Skull Island so far. The CGI.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Not overall. Consistently, the new one looks better. But just some of the shots, I mean. Like some of these close-ups on the face that we saw a few seconds ago.
Have you noticed sometimes?
Like there.
Have you noticed sometimes when the camera's looking at him like from a distance and it's just like a forward view of him? Have you noticed like a weird kind of like line between him and the background, almost like they're not quite meshing convincingly? You know what I mean?
His head is too big.
Hmm.
I don't know. There's something wrong. I can see that.
You got a gorilla head. I mean, you know, they have that sort of protrusion at the top of their skull.
This is an awesome bit. He's clearly changed now. She's clearly had a very serious impact on him. And I think that she's aware of that, and she's using that to make a point to him. Because if you read like the novel, see, that's another thing I always question: why does he get hit with the rock? That like again, somebody wrote this. You see, I always like to remember that somebody wrote this stuff. So it's like, why do you write stuff like that in there? Do you think that's to kind of knock him off his high horse? Like, oh yeah, you can get angry and break all the stuff you want, but you can always get broken down too. You know, everything always comes back to bite you. You can always get knocked off your high horse.
I wonder how many of those moments were actually in the script and how many of them were sort of improvised by Jackson and the visual effects people, you know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really enjoyed this bit because we see him through this temper tantrum. He looks kind of embarrassed of himself. She's made an impact on him, and look, he leaves her and wanders off. This is very different from any other version.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of awesome. Again, they establish a real relationship in this version. And I think that this is also fine because the island is 10 times more dangerous in this, and you don't need the threat of him not wanting to lose her. I mean, that's going to happen later, but you don't need that now. Because there's a very real dynamic between the two of them that we have to see the arc of right now. And right now we're in the middle of it where there's a conflict between the two of them because he wants something from her that she can't give him, and he's not willing to help her out if she can't give it.
I feel like most versions of the Kong get pretty attached to Anne like right off the bat. This one, it seems like their relationship on both sides of it sort of develops over the course of their time together,
which is interesting. And again, it's more fitting with the overall tone of this movie. And wow, we're already to the log. This is so much better paced now that we're on the island. My God.
Right. The second act of this movie is probably the best in terms of its pacing.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty riveted right now, not gonna lie. Sort of like 33, though. I feel like we've become distanced from the characters. And I just feel like in this version that makes the first third so much worse. Because it's like, I feel like they don't even matter now.
Yeah, my just drunkard is this scene is sort of reminiscent of that one scene in Egg on the Atomic Dragon with the cave.
It is, except that there was no monster in that scene. That's fucking awesome! Whoa. This always terrified me as a kid. This is the scariest scene in this movie. For some reason, mammalian monsters were always 10 times scarier to me because they have a more furious, human, emotive face. So imagine being this dude right now. That would suck, right?
Yeah. I don't know, though. On the other hand, you almost feel like you could maybe have a chance at reasoning with a big monkey as opposed to a big lizard.
You know, as reasoning, if by reasoning you mean he's going to try and shoot him, at least he just threw him. Because this gorilla could have just crushed him or ate him or whatever. Like, you know, it could have done a million different things.
I feel like Hayes died better in the game.
I do like that they said shoot and just Denim started rolling. That was pretty great. All the practical stuff in this is amazing. See, there are a lot more practical effects than I remember. And there is a lot more better integration of CGI and green screen with the practical stuff than I remember. I was gonna say something else, and I forgot. I forgot what I was ranting about. Dylan, do you remember?
No, not really.
Okay, well, we'll have to discontinue from here then. What do you think? I mean, this version of the log scene's pretty cool, right? I mean, it's kind of just a more up close and personal version of the original, but the updated special effects, dude, really help out.
Yeah.
And I like this twist on it where they hang on and fall down. That green screen does not hold up. Ooh. Do you think that do you buy that they would survive this? I guess. Oh, yeah, I guess I would. In that exact circumstance, in this fantastic bullshit island setting, sure.
Yeah, why not? Why the fuck not?
Okay. So we're about to get into another iconic King Kong set piece that is really long in this version, that is not nearly this long in the original. The T-Rex Kong fight. And I say it's starting now because this scene is going to build into it.
I really like this creature. This is a creature that I don't remember seeing in the game, but it's like this weird sort of Komodo stegosaurus. you know?
You like it?
I do. I think it's a pretty cool design.
It's a big crocodilian, actually.
Are those the ones that you would shoot in the water on the game?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I believe so. Looks like them to me.
They never come out on land in the game, so.
I do kind of like this bit where this thing attacks her, and then the V-Rex is going to bite it, and then she's going to think it was Kong, and it's not. See, what I also kind of like is that, you know, she seems to expect that he's going to protect her. Like, she almost seems to expect the typical Beauty and the Beast relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And he hasn't done that. He hasn't done that in any capacity yet.
The fucking millipedes, man. The bane of my existence.
Yeah, they're not nearly as big in this version. We don't see any of those big ones in this. And maybe in the spider pit sequence, which we're going to get to in a couple minutes.
Why are you standing or just staying there while it's feeling you up with its feelers?
Yeah, this is a weird scene. Do you think that this bit maybe could have been cut?
Now I really feel like they're drawing inspiration from not Raiders of the Lost Ark, but Temple of Doom. You know, with all the weird bugs.
Yeah, you've mentioned that a few times. I think that Peter Jackson's favorite Indiana Jones movie, it seems, might be Temple of Doom. There we go, V-Rex. And 3 fingers, D. We got 3 fingers on those motherfuckers.
Yep. Well, earlier I brought up Temple of Doom just from an aesthetic standpoint when the fire was going on, but that scene is like straight up like fucking Winnie in Temple of Doom being like on the other side of the door and the fucking bugs and shit.
Do you really think that this V-Rex would, you know, drop eating this thing to go after her?
I think it's very ambitious. It wants to have both of them.
I guess. It's a very ambitious V. It's the Macbeth of V-Rexes.
Also not running under real-world carnivore logic. It's running under, I'm a movie monster and I must kill everything I see logic.
Right. They hold up really well.
Yeah, they look pretty fucking sweet.
Especially since this is 4 years after Jurassic Park 3. And
I'd say that
and the CGI has taken a massive jump.
To like compare them to a more recent dinosaur movie, I think they look even better than the I-Rex in Jurassic World.
Huh. I can't say I disagree.
But you know, a lot of the CG in Jurassic World is kind of wonky anyway. And I think the problem with the I-Rex is that it's too smooth looking. Like it's albino and it doesn't have a whole lot of skin texture on it. And it just makes it look kind of weird. They feel like fully realized, animals. Maybe that was the intention because it was a genetically engineered creature to kind of make it look a little unnatural.
You know, they look pretty amazing though.
Look at that fucking like snaggletooth.
Yeah, they got fucked up. They look fucked up too. These do not look like Tyrannosaurus Rexes. They have their own feeling, and they have a different. They move very differently. They definitely have a similar move to how the T-Rex in the original 33 version moves.
They seem to be more intelligent than a real world T-Rex would be. Notice how that one was all like stealthy and shit.
Yeah,
Maybe
it ambushed her. Yeah, it's sure taking its sweet time. It could have just snatched her up while Kong took all that time to jump.
I guess given the terrain of this island and the dense foliage, it would make sense that they would develop a hunting style that's more based around sort of ambush.
All right, best scene in the movie, right? From this point on?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is probably the best monster fight in the last 10 years, maybe? Is it better than the stuff in Godzilla 2014?
Yeah, I think so. Purely on the basis that we get to see it better, you know. It's all out in the open. It's pretty clear.
I think Skull Island will offer the best monster fight in the recent decade.
Like I feel like the Godzilla fight has bigger moments in it, like the tail whip and the fucking atomic breath down the throat, and even just the first time the atomic breath was used. Those are all like moments that stand out much more than anything in this fight. However, I think overall this fight works better because again it's clear, you can tell what's going on. It's well choreographed.
It is. Is it maybe over choreographed? I've heard that criticism. It looks too fake. Like it looks too much like a dance.
Possibly, and like many things in this movie, I think it might have a problem of going on a little long. But
oh, we've already established that. I mean, this scene is way too detailed with the other creatures building up to the T-Rexes. That was awesome when he slammed the rock down.
Yeah, I mean, this Kong don't just use wrestling moves. This Kong knows fucking Kung Fu.
Kung Fu! That's awesome.
Caught her with his fucking foot. Like, this Kong can scrap. You know, I have no doubt in my mind that this Kong could probably kick 33 Kong's ass. I don't know if it would win against 76. I don't know if it would win against 76, though, just because of the size difference.
The size difference is really the thing that kills it there, yeah. He's probably more agile, though. See, the whole tension of him having to hang on to Anne is obviously the thing that ramps it up. Because since there's 3, he can't guarantee that she's going to be safe if he leaves her somewhere.
I guess it's not true that this is the first Kong movie to make the Kong look more like a traditional gorilla. Because, I mean, they did change the proportions of Kong in Lives to make him more like an actual gorilla.
That's true, but not to this extent.
And actually, you know, the way
King Kong Escapes.
Escape's suit was built more like an actual gorilla, like the shoulders and shit were more proportional to an actual gorilla. However, it still walked upright.
Yeah. Now I'm just fine admiring the pretty imagery. This is all I needed, Peter Jackson. I didn't want to spend an hour on a boat.
See, once we go off the cliff and we're in the vines and it turns to the climax of Tarzan, this is the point where I'm like, all right, wrap the scene up.
Yeah, exactly. This is still pretty fucking cool, though.
And it goes on for a while. Like, this V-Rex, like, swings after her.
Yeah.
Although that is kind of a cool idea. The
So
V-Rex still trying to eat her, even though he's all tangled up.
We can definitely establish that the action is also too drawn out, though, which is interesting. Does Peter Jackson verge into Michael Bay level territory in this movie?
No.
In terms of how drawn out everything is.
Okay, in terms of sheer length of the sequences, you could possibly make that argument. However, he's a lot better at it than Michael Bay.
Well, I'm not saying that what he's doing is not compelling. I'm just saying that it's drawn out. I think that's the difference. But yeah, I just don't think I need to see it.
I don't think it's quite reached Michael Bay levels because the last 2 Transformers movies each had battle sequences that pretty much take an hour. But it is certainly along the same lines, perhaps.
Do you think that maybe they should have intercut the spider pit sequence with this sequence?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do that, you know?
Especially since it's this long.
To talk about another Peter Jackson film that has massive battle sequences. In the Lord of the Rings movies, you would often, intercut from the big battle that's going on to like other shit that's going on with some of the other characters, and like that's the way to do it. I don't know why he lingers on this. I think again it's because he fucking loves King Kong and he's just like, look at it.
This was in the trailer. See, this could have been where it started. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, really.
This island makes no sense. So they came down from a fucking ravine into open valley.
Yeah.
Huh. Earthquakes, I guess. See, but yeah, this was the advertising shot. This was what all people thought the T-Rex stuff would be. So, which I guess is kind of cool. So people didn't know that there was all this build up to it.
I think the island is like a series of plateaus at like different altitudes, and each plateau has like its own like foliage and sort of mini ecosystem going on. Like they're each like sort of, it's like little bits of forest suspended in the air.
It seems like the higher up you go, the bigger the predators get until you get to Kong.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think of that when he rips the tongue out? That's pretty cool.
That is pretty fucking sweet. And we're about to get the classic jaw snapping. You definitely needed this to end off the fight scene. I just didn't need all that vine shit to get to it.
Yeah, again, this is definitely drawn out. But it's all good. It's all well choreographed. It all looks amazing. It's easily some of the best monster fight stuff in the last 20 years. If not the best.
Brutal. Not only did he break his lower jaw, but then he fucking like crushed his top jaw.
Yeah. And they do they do the bit where he plays with the jaw like he does in 33.
Yeah.
I never liked the way he beat at his chest in this version.
Too much like a real gorilla for you?
I don't know if that's it. Maybe, but it always looked awkward and not as powerful as the original to me. Yeah, see, look at how coy he's being.
I know, he's a sassy motherfucker.
I love it. It's great.
He's not making eye contact. He's got his bottom lip puffed out. He's like, you yelled at me earlier. Bitch.
I'm currently reading Congo by Michael Crichton right now because we've been doing all this Kong stuff. And, it's kind of his version of that kind of story. And the gorilla in that, Amy, is very much so like that. Like, she's very sassy. Like, that's the thing, man. They're pretty much people, but, they're just hairy. That's pretty much that's pretty much their thing. It's kind of creepy.
I like the fact that King Kong belongs to this old cinematic tradition of, oh, gorillas are fucking frightening. When in reality, they're like the chillest apes. And
yeah, they are the coolest apes, totally. And the chimps are the fucked up ones.
You gotta watch out for those fucking chimpanzees. That's like the one thing I appreciated about the Tim Burton.
They'll kidnap and eat your babies.
Exactly. That's like the major thing that I appreciate about the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. There isn't a whole lot you can say for that movie, but it's very accurate in the way it portrays the apes themselves. Like, the chimps are fucking psychotic, and the gorillas are just like these honorable warriors doing their thing.
So here we go. We're about to get the spider pit sequence finally on film.
Yeah, now this I wanted to talk about.
70 years in the making.
We talked in the 33 commentary about how perfectly paced that film is. Perfectly. And when you look back, the reason Marion C. Cooper cut the spider pit sequence was because he felt that it ruined the pace of the movie. So as much as I love the fact that we finally have a version of King Kong that has a spider pit sequence in it, I think Marion C. Cooper might have been right.
I'd have to agree.
Especially when done to Peter Jackson's standard level of excess.
Now, maybe because of how long the Kong versus V-Rex scene is, maybe it's okay that we get a nice extended horror bit with them. But maybe it's just because of how truly horrendous and really gut-wrenching it is that it's just bad that it goes on for so long. Well, let's see how long it goes on for before we make that judgment.
It just feels to me like the entire movie stops. And then, like, bugs show up, like...
But did that already happen with the T-Rex scene, or was that overall too impressive for it to feel that way?
Perhaps, the T-Rex scene, I feel like...
V-Rex.
V-Rex. The V-Rex scene, I feel like I just kind of want to see cut down. This, I almost wish they hadn't done in a way, because again, I feel like
completely interesting. You don't think that that remaking King Kong was enough to make this to make enough reason for this to happen for them to make this? Because I think that it is. Maybe just cut it down. Maybe not do this weird of creatures. Like, just do some big insects and reptiles and stuff. I don't know.
Maybe if the rest of the movie hadn't been as overly drawn out as it was, I'd be a little more okay with it. You know what I mean?
Maybe if they would have just fallen into the ravine and been eaten by stuff as they fell down, it would have been better.
As the movie stands, though, I feel like Marion C. Cooper was kind of right. Like, yeah, it does kind of just stop the movie in its tracks.
See, I think it's because Jackson gets so down and dirty with it, where you got these really specific bits where, like, they're pulling them off of each other and they're going on to each other. Like, if Cooper and Shodzak and everybody else and Selznick did this in the original King Kong, like, it just would have been brief cutaways to the stuff picking off people as they fell into the ravine, you know?
Lumpy, you should have got the fuck away from these insects, because you have probably the worst death in this entire movie.
I do like that after the camera's broken, Denham really steps up and, like, fucks up some bugs. That's great.
Yeah, I think this is the point where it's sinking in that he might have fucked up here.
I don't think he thinks he fucked up. I just think that, well, he thinks that his situation is fucked up now that he doesn't have his camera. But I don't think he thinks he fucked up. I just think that currently he's in dire straits. They all
like,
are.
Why did you stay in the pit with the giant maggots? This is, oh boy, here it comes.
Man, Andy Serkis gets a brutal death in this.
Nobody ever got it that bad.
He gets fucked up in every movie. He's like Sean Bean, except he doesn't always die. He easily has the worst death in this movie, right, Lumpy?
Right. That's always been in my opinion, the worst death in the movie. Like, Jesus. This
scene always terrified me as a kid, where he shoots the bugs off Jack.
And, like, this kid's a crack shot, ain't he?
Yeah, lucky him. Ooh! See, I would not let somebody do this to me, bugs or not. Like, these are just fucking big crickets. I used to feed these to my lizard. I wouldn't care. Not enough for, like, an 18-year-old to be shooting fucking bullets at them off me, you know?
You say that, but I think crickets are a little bit more of a deal when they're the size of a fucking schnauzer.
I don't disagree, but even still, what was that?
I don't even know. There's too many fucking variations of creatures in this pit.
I would have to agree. My beautiful face, it's gonna fuck up my nose.
And they all decided to attack at the same time. Once the humans had all stood up, they didn't do anything when the humans were just lying there on the ground, fucking like, oh, that fucking sucks.
That's a solid point. Maybe they thought they were dead already, but then why would they just scavenge off their carcasses? These are all good questions.
So is all this happening in real time? Were they laying on the ground the entire time Kong was fighting those T-Rexes?
If it is, that's dumb. If not, they should have just intercut it.
You think we could have gotten an actually pretty daring and interesting action sequence if we had cut back and forth between all this shit happening in the spider pit? And
these things look like the mother longlegs from Skull Island.
Well, there were supposed to be some creatures in the original spider pit sequence that were like that. They were kind of like big spiders, but they had like crab claws and shit. Like that's straight out of the original idea.
See, this scene isn't as long as I remember. It's already over now with them being mowed down by the guns. I can see what you're saying, but I don't know if I agree that it should have been cut completely. Maybe just cut down a bit. There's that Styracosaur down there.
Yeah, you get a very brief glimpse of it. It's nice that
Kong's lair in this is fucking awesome, with all the dead members of his kind as like a tomb. The incorporation of the ancient ruins into the landscape is really good in this version. Like, obviously, this version has the much more direct translation of the more expanded lore of King Kong, where there was this ancient civilization that existed on the island, prior to the current Skull Islanders who sacrifice girls to Kong.
See, you can appreciate the fact that this movie was made by a fucking fan of Kong. You can tell, That fucking Styracosaur, I mean, it's just there for one shot. It's drinking out of a pool, but that's like a huge nod to like the history of these movies. And I mean, something that Peter Jackson is very aware of. I mean, he actually owns the original not Marion C. Cooper, fuck.
Willis O'Brien?
Yeah, he actually owns the original Willis O'Brien Styracosaur puppet.
That looks amazing.
Like it's a part of his private collection. That man has one amazing private collection.
Him sitting on the slope on the mountaintop like this is kind of an exact recreation of concept art from 33. Have you ever seen the concept art for 33? It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of it.
It's pretty spectacular, and there's a lot of shots in this movie that tries to recreate it. The Kong in Skull Island, to me, looks like a pretty direct translation of a lot of the concept art Kongs from that movie, which is awesome. I like that now he doesn't even really care about her entertaining him, like, superficially. It's just about her being there.
Mm-hmm.
You can totally see Andy Serkis's face in there, though, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just with a fucking smushed up monkey nose. What is it with ape noses? They haven't developed bridges yet.
Are you criticizing their evolution? Do you think that there's something I can do about it?
A little bit, yeah.
I like that we see him get a fresh wound. That's good. Good stuff. I heard like people say that she should have gotten an Oscar the year that this came out for this role. Do you agree?
No.
No? I mean, I guess I can see what they're saying. Maybe just on the sheer virtue of she's acting to nothing. Well, I mean, she's not acting to nothing. She's acting to Andy Serkis in a big weird suit.
I'd have to look back on 2005 and think what other great performances were at the time, but I don't know if this is Oscar worthy. I mean,
maybe just because she doesn't get enough face time. There's a lot of special effects and ensemble cast and mythos to take up the screen in this. Maybe she doesn't get enough to do, but she is, again, really good. Not to take anything away from her, but that was buzz that I heard at the time.
Well, I never thought of it before, but this was the same fucking year as Revenge of the Sith.
What do you think of her saying "beautiful" to him? That's like, is that too sappy? Where she's like beautiful. What do you think she's gonna? Does she think he's gonna say back like "yup" or like "word"?
I don't know. She's wasting her time if she's trying to teach him English.
Yeah, that's obviously not. I mean, Jessica Lange talked to Kong though, and that kind of worked. Did you like that?
Well, when Jessica Lange talked to Kong, it kind of felt like, the way people talk to like a dog, Naomi Watts, the way she was doing it almost made it seem like she was trying to like communicate with him, like for real.
Yeah, she clearly has much more like respect for Kong than. Well, I think that she has a more of an appreciation for how intelligent Kong is, as opposed to Jessica Lange.
Mm-hmm.
And Ann Darrow in 33 was just like, ah! Which, again, is maybe more realistic. See, D, let me ask you this. Is this movie realistic? Or is it because I always thought, personally, that this movie was unsure of itself about what elements of it would be more fantastical in nature and what would be more realistic. How do you feel that balances out? Because, again, this is an updated, modernized version of Kong. So I think that there is more pressure on the scriptwriters and the filmmakers and the producers to make something that is more genuine, more authentic.
Well, I think certainly in terms of like the ecology of the island, it's definitely, if not realistic, definitely sort of plausible, if that makes any sense. Like it kind of makes you buy that something like this could exist, despite the fact that you pretty much know it doesn't.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I feel you. I think that from that perspective, the ecology and the dinosaurs and Kong and the mythology, that mix of reality and fantasy, using it to make it more of an in-depth look at that, great stuff. But when we look at stuff like Anglehorn and all the 30 stuff, and making it more honest and authentic to the period, even though the original movie was made in that period, like Anglehorn in this, do you buy that he would agree to take Kong back? I'm kind of torn on it because he does intelligently in this version, they do set up that he does capture and transport animals for a living.
Right. Okay. So on the one hand, he does do that for a living, and obviously there's tons of money to be made from the transport of Kong back to America. On the other hand, though, yeah, it does kind of feel out of character a little bit because the entire time, at least since we've been on the island, he's been shown to be a bit more uh, respectable than that, or respectable is maybe not the right word. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he did show some concern there. He's still very consistent to me. He's still my rock in this movie. Like he definitely was not into it, especially since he knew that Carl was going to use Jack rescuing Anne and bringing her back to lure Kong back to the gate. And he definitely was like, "Oh fuck." More moral ambiguity. Like, he's trying to be a stand-up guy in this situation. He really he was there for Bruce Baxter when Baxter was like, "Hey, we need to go back and help them." Like, he's been on point this whole time pretty much. I think his only real misstep in this entire movie is agreeing to bring Kong back, because even he doesn't agree to go to the island. Even like he's gonna turn back, and he only decides to do it because he doesn't decide to do it. They get blown off course. Interestingly, they don't intentionally even end up at the island at the point that they end up at it in this version.
I fucking hate those bats.
You hate them because of the video game. How do you feel about them from a design and ecological standpoint, D?
From that standpoint, they're fine. But I fucking hate them.
Jack's moving. He's a skittering.
Yep. Slight delay, but I'm at 52, 3, 4, 5. Wind sync?
Yeah, pretty much. See, where is the fog bank? It's gone. This is obviously very different from the original, where he stumbles upon Kong, and he doesn't really stumble upon Kong. He's been tracking it. See, Jack stays with Kong the whole time in the original. Not the case in this. So, D, where do you think Kong's son is hiding in this version?
He's on the other side of the island fighting bears and shit.
Right. Where do you think Kong's wife is? He killed her.
In Borneo.
Borneo. Oh, right, they're divorced. Why did he get custody?
I don't know. Maybe she didn't want him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
maybe she walked out.
Yeah, maybe she's the bad mother and Kong is the devoted husband, and the sacrifices are his guy's night out, where he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go get lit," and he leaves the little Kong with the bears.
Yeah, see, I think she left Kong's ass, and she was like, and she like left him with the kid and all that shit. She took all his money and his big screen TV and moved to Borneo.
I love it. That's my new headcanon for every version of King Kong, including this one.
With her red hair and her tickle bitties.
This scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, and it still works on me now. Ooh, yeah, my penis would be firmly in my body at this moment. My penis would be like, "All right, bro, we had a good run, but we're out of here."
That's saying something considering the fact that we humans don't even have retractable penises.
They would evolve that way in that moment because of how scared I would be.
You, in that moment, your dick would devolve into a dog dick and just like crawl up inside your body.
Yep, pretty much. Then I would fall apart. It's pretty convenient that the bats decided to attack at this moment. It's kind of better in the 33 version, where Jack waits until the pterodactyl attacks Kong for him to go after Anne.
Yeah, it's not even clear why the bats are attacking. Like, they just gotta buck up their ass all of a sudden.
It's like, woo! It's party time.
Maybe the idea is that Kong like disturbed their sleep when he started roaring at Jack and shit.
Aren't they bigger in the video game?
Some of them are. You have the big blue ones that are like the bosses, but most of them no. They're about the size. They're about the size of these. I mean, they'd carry a man away.
Don't you wish that he would have fought a bigger one?
Yeah, that would have been cool, especially in this sequence.
Yeah,
you know,
because this is our mirror for the Pteranodon sequence in the original.
Or even those eel things that he fought in the game. That would have been a cool sequence to have.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been padding, But pick one. And would you have rathered that sequence as opposed to this?
I think it probably would have been more organic if you have pretty much what's going on here, but then a big bat shows up and he has to like fight it briefly. And you could kill it the way you do in the game, where you like fucking tear the wing off.
So as opposed even to the eel sequence.
Yeah, if you were gonna cut a new boss battle into this previously existing movie, that would probably be the more organic way to place one.
I almost think I would prefer the that's 76. The eel sequence.
Because the eel sequence would also require you to completely restage the scene and have it take place inside like it did in the game.
I guess. Okay, that's true. Yeah, that was very contrived, where the water let in, so that way you couldn't do anything. You couldn't like attack Kong or anything or kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never fight Kong in that. I wish there would have been at least one sequence where it would have been like the VR stuff, where you have to just kind of ward off Kong.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the closest you get to that is kind of the log sequence, but there's nothing you can do.
No, you just have to... There is nothing to do. These are all exact shots from 33, like this one is. I don't like or admire these characters or these actors as much as I did the original. Like, they just don't have as much... they're not as endearing to me.
I feel like I'm watching The Walking Dead right now. Coral!
So doesn't this all feel this kind of a little bit... It all feels a little hollow to me, I'm not gonna lie. But all of this is, again, a million times better than what was going on earlier.
Why is Jack Black waiting? Oh, Jack Black. Why is Jack Black waiting to drop the bridge?
Because he wants to wait until Kong is right there, which is stupid. Oh, see? They don't open the gate in this version. Remember, they hoisted Anne over in that. So now, when they open the gate, they can't close it again. So they want to wait until Kong is right there to close it, to open it. Oh, they could have just gone through, though. I don't know why they didn't just go through. They didn't even have to wait for him.
Why didn't Kong ever just fucking climb over this fucking wall? There's clearly plenty of handholds on it in this version.
See, this is always very interesting. In this version, nobody gives a shit that she's okay and back. Like, Carl doesn't even look at her. Like, this is obviously a very distinct choice for this version. I always liked this.
Yeah, I like how she notices what's going on. She's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, but more than that, everybody, like, you'd think that everybody would be like, oh my god, Anne, you're okay. But no, everybody's like, whatever.
Well, they know that there's something big and bad coming their way. There's not really time to stop and congratulate her on being alive.
Do you I like that they're all into it? Because in 33, Carl Denham kind of just at the last minute goes, all right, boys, we're taking this back. In this, it's a build, you know?
Yeah, they planned it out. Which is how it goes down in 76, too. I mean, they plan out his capture in that.
Yes. It's a lot more believable in this, obviously. Because the gas bombs were an invention of a fictitious invention of the filmmakers to give them a device to take down Kong with. This is obviously using a real thing to take down a more realistically scaled Kong.
Right, he won't get high like on ether.
No, he's not going to get addicted to chloroform. He's not going to be sitting in North Pole fucking rehab centers, rotting away, looking at robots, thinking they're real fucking monkeys.
I guess you could hand this to chloroform. Be a hell of a sleep aid.
It doesn't work, though, at least not at this point. There is a lot more... So here's what I'll say. There is more tension between the characters in this version than there is even in 76. And that makes it obviously more kind of dramatic. More melodramatic, certainly.
I feel like that shot where Kong was watching Jack and carry Anne away, I think the scale was a little off in that shot. He looked a little bigger than he should have. To be as far in the background as he was.
Yeah.
It's always a weird thing.
The whole layout of the island is so different in this version.
It's always a weird thing in monster movies when the fucking scale gets just off for a second.
You saying he looks too big?
He did a minute ago.
I can see that. I can see that.
Just in that one shot where he was being held down by the nets and watching Jack carry Anne away, because he was all the way in the background, but he still looked like he was right behind them. I don't know.
The lighting in this scene is off. It doesn't look realistic to me with the background. Yeah, this is really great. See, there the scale's perfect, right?
Yeah, right here it looks fine. Like I said, it was just that one shot before. I'll be interested to see if there's any other examples.
Ooh, nobody got it that bad. That was an amazing... See, that was a really dope shot.
I feel like Lumpy got it a little worse than that, but...
Okay, that's fair. But Denim... Okay, so he still kind of steps up and does the same thing in this version. Ooh. All the people flying around and stuff look surprisingly good even now. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah. This all looks pretty good to me. Except what's weird is that whenever they cut to a reverse shot, it's like right now, the background looks kind of weird, like it's kind of fuzzy or something.
I agree. It looks really green screeny. Yeah, man, they really fuck him up in this version. You think this is the most brutal Kong capture? Probably, right?
Yeah, they totally could have killed him if that's what they were setting out to do.
Well, I mean, obviously now that was the intention, but it's only because Denim does this that they even don't do that.
Like, you plug that harpoon right between his fucking eyes, he'd be dead, man.
Ooh, yeah, that's brutal. Because he really gets broken in the scene. Like, he's not a savage, like, oh, in this moment. He's like Anne, come on, like, come back with me, please. Right there. Yeah, this all totally works. Their relationship dynamic, one of the best things about this movie. Agreed?
Come back, Dwan. I mean, Anne. You don't think they play it up a little too much, though? Like, you don't think it just barely crosses the line into sappiness?
I'm not saying I didn't think it was sappy. I'm just saying I think it's well done. It's a well done version of that. It's, again, like everything in this movie, it maybe goes into too much detail and is too drawn out to the point where it becomes sappy. Maybe this movie shouldn't have been so focused on making everything so emotional, and it should have focused more on telling a story.
Even if you buy that they could get him, that they could fit him in the boat, how do they actually get him in the boat?
See, because this movie... So, what we did was we took the original King Kong, and then we filled out the 3-hour runtime with more detail, right? That's what we did.
Pretty much, yeah.
And maybe what we should have done is just told a story, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that would have been a better bet.
Still, but how do they get him in the boat?
I don't know. Boys, I'll share it with all of you, Dylan. This is our slogan right here. We have to recite it. And if he runs into this, we'll lights on Broadway. It'll be good Kong. Skull Island.
Like it doesn't have one of those big like trap doors like cargo boat ships of today. You know, like what you see in like the Lost World Jurassic Park.
It's got cranes and shit though.
Like I can buy like sure they take all the cages out of the lower decks. They could maybe fit him in there. He'd probably be a little cramped, but they could fit him in there. But actually getting him in there though.
I love that we just cut to this. This is an exact mirror to 33. Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. At this point in the movie, you're thinking, all right, we're off to the races. We're about to wrap this shit up.
Oh, no.
And then you look at the run
45 minutes left.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we had roughly an hour of Skull Island stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got roughly 2 hours of New York and boat stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the movie breaks down. An hour before you get to the island, a little over an hour on the island, and then the rest of it back in New York.
How does that break down to you? Maybe a little too much time around the
Really
island?
I really feels like it's formulated like a big long epic play, like it's literally an acts, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and then like all it needs is like title cards and an intermission. You know what I mean?
Well, this is attempting to be the grand opus version of King Kong, right? So, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I don't think that Kong needs to be a grand opus, though, is the problem.
It already was. You don't have to make it 3 hours to be a grand opus. Grand opus does not always mean long, and I think that was the thought process here. See, those are the guys who tried to have him arrested earlier, so I like all this.
I don't need a Kong movie to be an epic. I just need a Kong movie to be epic. You know what I mean?
I hate that they split up the cast so much because, again, it overcomplicates things. So what I mean is we've got Carl and Jack here, and Kong. Not Jack. Prescott.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a reference to 76?
What?
The fact that his name is Prescott?
Oh, well, possibly.
Then you got Jack at his play, and you got Anne at her play. Like, did we really need to split up the cast this much?
Probably not. Oh, see, this is the play that he was writing for Anne. Except
Yeah.
now there's some other blonde chick. By the way, he sure got this play produced fast.
Yeah, maybe, and it also looks really bad.
I don't think that's how Broadway works, Mr. Jackson. I think it takes a while for a play to get to the production stage. I mean, the actors barely had time to learn the lines, let alone perform them.
This looks fucking terrible.
I guess you can't fault the fucking set department, considering that they seem to have thrown this play together over the course of an afternoon.
That seems how long it took to make it. See, I don't know. Why don't we need all this intercutting? My God, we're already back in New York. Just show us. Can we just see Kong going on a mayhem, going on a rampage, please?
All we needed was the way 76 did it. Fucking Jack shows up to the show, tries to convince Anne to not go through with it because he doesn't agree with it, and etc. etc. That's all you need. You don't need all this. This
Just
is all
have
stupid.
like this is all like Anne really turns against Carl, and Carl totally gives up on Anne, kind of over the course of the movie. Like they have no relationship in this movie, right?
I mean, yeah, this is the first thing I would cut if I was one of these days. I'm gonna do a fan edit of this movie and just fucking cut out all the bullshit.
My version would be about 25 minutes. It would just be the T-Rex scene. No.
Which is in and of itself 25 minutes.
It's kind of a mini movie, isn't it?
It has its own arc.
It does. Every scene has its own arc. Like the grand epics of the time. It's the Lawrence of Arabia of giant monster movies. I ask you again, do you like that?
I don't need that.
I don't know if I need that either. Maybe not with this material, certainly.
There's a reason that the ancients, and by the ancients I mean old Hollywood, made movies like Lawrence of Arabia a certain way, and movies like the original King Kong another way.
What if it was a monster that was liberating the Arabian people?
Do I think you could possibly make an epic kaiju movie that's like fucking 3 hours long and it's like a fucking cinematic opus and like there's grand soliloquies and it's all Shakespearean and shit? Sure, I mean, you can do pretty much anything. I don't think you can do it with Kong though, because Kong is already its own thing, and if you're going to do something like that, you really
not as like a straight up remake of the original anyway.
Yeah, if you're going to do something like that, you kind of have to create your own story to do it with. You can't force a story that was meant to occupy 100 minutes into your fucking Lord of the Rings runtime bubble, you know.
So, what do you think of this? That she's not there, and this kind of fake out, where he says that my actress Ann Darrow melted Kong's heart. It's just this girl who's not Ann Darrow that he brings out.
I do kind of like that moment where this like other chick is fucking screaming and Kong's looking at her like, "The fuck are you?"
It's kind of cool. I don't know. Again, it's a question of overcomplication versus how cool it is. I feel like that's the ultimate imbalance of this movie.
God, that was a brilliant idea I had earlier. How much better would this movie be if that was Philip Seymour Hoffman instead of fucking Jack Black?
Do you think that this movie is wondrous?
How do you mean?
In the same sense as the original.
You mean like a spectacle?
Not a spectacle in terms of like it captures the wonder and the majesty of all these big monsters and the romance of it.
Oh, no, not really, which is odd. I think even 76 does that to an extent, you know?
And this doesn't, right? It's bizarre. Because visually it's trying to reflect that, but I don't think it reflects it in the story. Nobody's having any fun in this movie, right?
I feel like the thing that really captured that in the original was obviously, you know, the visuals and also just the way that it was all executed. And then in the 76 version, it's the fucking score. Like, it captures all that perfectly.
People had fun in those movies, though, right? They joked around with each other. They all kind of wanted to be there.
Mm-hmm.
This movie doesn't really have that, does it? Oh, Jack went to the Kong show. Okay, so he's there now at least. Oh, Jack thinks fucking Carl's gonna announce him. He didn't really do much, did he? Driscoll, I mean. I guess he got Am back. Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of a big thing.
That's kind of a big thing. This outfit is ridiculous and kind of hilarious, although I love the whole recreation of the original, native stuff. Vamp for a second, will you?
Sure. Well, as Bill was just describing, the natives in this stage play are obviously picture matches for the fucking natives from the original movie, which is a nice touch. Also, Mr. Bruce Baxter here wearing pretty much the outfit that Carl Denham wore in the original. So again, we have this moment of like pseudo remaking the original, or well, the whole thing is remaking the original, obviously, but like redoing the original like straight up in like these sort of like little meta ways. It's interesting.
Jack just said, "Oh, that's the thing about Carl: his unfailing ability to destroy the things he loves." What is he destroying here that he loves? What is it? What does he love? Himself? That's all I see. I get zero passion from him about anything, from any of these people. I get zero passion. They all seem miserable and and not content with their dispositions. Oh, did they expect it to be her?
I do like how fucking sad Kong looks during all this.
He's clearly emotionally broken, and that's why they were able to tame him, because as soon as he gets pissed, he loses it and they can't stop him, right?
That is the best aspect of doing Kong in CG, is that he's allowed to be far more expressive with the motion capture than he ever was able to be, obviously, with either a stop-motion puppet or even the amazing mask work of Rick Baker in 76, which was able to be incredibly expressive given the limits of the technology. But the motion capture technology obviously just elevates it to an even higher level.
Mm. Wow. So now he's realized that it's not Anne, and he's kind of pissed. I was going to say something else, and I forgot. Sorry for the silence, folks. See, again, we're drawing things out. Again.
See, as much as I didn't think we needed the scene of Jack going to the play that he wrote, and that was kind of weird, I do think it makes sense for Anne's character, especially the way that she's portrayed in this movie, that she, rather than being at the Kong show, went off to be in this show, which is more in line with what she was doing before going off on an adventure.
That's
so that
true.
I don't mind.
I agree.
Maybe we linger on it a little long, but
and she is clearly aware and sad about what's going on. But I don't think she's doing what she wants to do in that sequence either, because she doesn't look very happy. And not just because she's thinking about Kong. How much do you think they paid this girl to tie her up in front of this big fucking gorilla?
Must have been a lot of fucking money. And now she's realizing that it ain't worth it. I like that moment though, when on her face you can tell when her fake terror turns into real terror.
Denham said that in this version. Let 'em roar makes a swell picture. In the original, that was the reporters when Carl actually admitted, like, he was like, we should stop this, and they're like, oh, let 'em roar makes a swell picture. That's kind of hysterical.
I think it makes more sense for the way he's characterized in this movie that he would let it go on a little longer than it should have.
Obviously.
Now's the moment that he realizes that, this was a bad idea. As soon as the chains are actually broken, that's what it actually takes for Carl Denham to turn around and be like, oh no, I shouldn't have done that. Like, it has to go to this extreme. He has to, like, pick up a bitch and, like, throw her through the air before Carl's like, oh, maybe I fucked up.
Ironically, 33 minutes before its climactic conclusion.
My God.
All right, so now we pretty much got a half hour of monster mayhem, right? There's there's no just dry, like, oh, here's an emotional moment where, like, Anne's fucking acting old man mentor tells her how to sneeze properly. Like, there's no moment like that, right? Like, it's just all Kong ripping through shit. I like that he remembers Jack. I always liked this.
So you're forgetting about my favorite, and by favorite I mean most hated sequence in the entire movie. Kong and Anne on ice.
Oh, I forgot about that scene. Okay, that's when this movie grinds to a halt.
That is the number one scene on my shit list. The number one scene on my must-be-cut list.
I never hated it that much. We'll see what happens when we get there.
Because even in 2005, when I was a young warthog and I was seeing this movie in the theater for the first time and I was loving it and I wasn't really minding the fact that it was a long movie back then, it didn't bother me as much. Even then, I was like, this is ridiculous. We're in New York now. All he has to do is climb up the Empire State Building and get shot. Like, we're at that point in the narrative. And we choose now, of all times, to interject this bullshit ice skating sequence. And I probably should have saved this rant for the actual sequence, because right now he's out on the street.
Yeah, you're going to get angry again when it actually happens. Like, right now we're watching pretty fun stuff where cars are crashing into each other all around him.
Like, right now, this is just this is all pretty good sequence. But in a minute, man, it's about to turn into some real bullshit.
I like that he's more angry at Jack than he is Carl, who actually got him captured. Like, that's kind of awesome. Because Jack took Anne away from him. Like, that's pretty cool.
I mean, he barely saw Carl. He turned his head 1 minute, and then there was a fucking bottle of chloroform smashing him in the face. He never had
Weasley Denham in this version.
Yeah. He never had a moment of, like, straight up being in conflict with Denham as much as he did with Jack in the scene where he was taking a lair.
Yeah.
Oh, that bitch got a broken leg at the least. Jesus.
He kills a lot of people in the scene. See, again, they definitely don't water down his character in this version. He murders a lot of people. He's not like a superhero or anything. He's a monster. He's an animal. I think that's the same poster as in the original. That's pretty cool. Pretty sure, anyway. I do like that the National Guard steps up in this version, because in 33 it's just the cops. Like, you'd think the National Guard would help out with a 30-foot gorilla.
Yeah, really. Follow that ape.
It's all yours, buddy. That's great. I like that he steps up. I don't know what he's going to do with the yellow cab, but more power to him.
If only his taxi driver had been fucking, what's his name? Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd ain't afraid no big monkeys or ghosts.
I feel that would have just been an awkward cameo that would draw things to a halt.
Especially awkward in this movie. You'd be like, what the fuck? Dan Aykroyd, why are you making Ghostbusters jokes in a King Kong movie?
Set in the 30s.
You're better than this, Dan. What are you doing with your life? You were a conehead.
That's the high point you bring up. Awesome.
Like, come on, Dan, you were a fucking conehead. You were in the great outdoors. You're better than this.
You can argue Jack gets all these people killed.
You could, yeah.
But, I mean, people were going to die anyway because Kong's there, so, you know. It's not really his fault. This is all Denham's fault.
Oh, shit, oh, shit, oh, shit.
And Englehorn's.
This is a pretty nice chase sequence. Oddly reminiscent of the taxi chase from the end of Godzilla 98, but...
Yeah, a little bit. Except better than that because it's smaller scale, it's tighter, there's more happening. It's the city's also not abandoned like it is in 98.
True
That's
that.
awesome when he skates on the side of the wall. See, he's a lot more agile than Zilla is in 98.
Oh, yeah. He also has the benefit of being smaller, so he can fit...
Right, again, the scale makes this cooler. That's awesome when he skids like that.
Isn't it funny how when you're a kid you think, oh man, the monsters should be bigger, man. Like you just think like bigger monsters equals better like movie. And then when you get a little older, you realize, hey, actually, when
that
the monsters
seems to be our thought process now, huh?
Yeah, really. And then when you get a little older, you look at these movies and you're like, hey, you know what makes King Kong or fucking Daimajin good? They're not that big in comparison to other giant monsters. So like when they tear shit up, like it's more impactful.
This is maybe another one of those over-dramatic moments. It's almost like they have some kind of undying love or connection to destroy time, and I don't like it.
I'm gonna walking out of the fuck me. Like what?
It's a little much, ain't it?
A little much.
Guess it's supposed to satiate. It's just it verges on a little too overdeveloped, maybe, where it gets kind of creepy.
Listen, Kong, you got about 12 minutes. All right, now.
Hang on, no, he's got actually 27 minutes.
But how much of that is credits?
Like 10 max.
All right, so you got 17 minutes then.
We're not at the end yet, D. We're still good. So settle in.
He picks her up, and then see that would be fine. I'd be fine with this sort of emotional scene. They find each other again. He picks her up, but then after that, go to the fucking Empire State Building. Don't ice skate. What is this bullshit?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The movie has definitely grinded to a halt again. Even in just this one scene.
There's nobody else on the streets anymore. What happened to all the people running around and the National Guard and shit?
They forgot how to use their eyes and ears.
Yes, pick her up. Good monkey.
Good. Yep, you know she's a person. Yeah, okay. See, I think the National Guard's gonna shoot him in the back or something while he's, Oh, no, never mind. I was wrong. Yeah, that was way too long. Way too drawn out for no reason. Do, 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 do.
Once you get to this point in the movie, it's just like, I want it to be over now.
Because at this point, you know where everything's gonna go. You know what? At this point, if you'd never seen a King Kong movie before, maybe not.
You know what? When you're on the island,
D, here we go.
When you're on the island and you think, okay, some of these sequences might be dragging on a little bit, but it's all really cool shit. You kind of forget a little bit and forgive the whole fact that it took, a fucking hour to get to the island. But then you come back here and you're reminded just how fucking... Oh, isn't this whimsical?
Do you think that the 1930s aesthetic is kind of they're kind of relying on that to wow people visually?
I like the fact that there's absolutely no indication that this movie takes place around Christmas until they go into fucking Central Park. And all of a sudden there's fucking Christmas lights everywhere and the street lights look like something out of Dr. Seuss.
Well, we had snow on the ground earlier, so we knew it was winter.
I guess the movie got released around Christmas, so fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Oh,
I
shit.
remember.
This is a Christmas movie.
It is massively a Christmas movie. It was one of the early Christmas blockbusters of the 2000s.
Great. Between this and Jurassic World, I'm stocking up on a collection of monster movies that are tangentially Christmas.
Oh, that's a good point. Probably the new Predator movie that's going to be written and directed by Shane Black.
Oh, I can't wait until we have a Christmas Predator movie. That's going to be fucking great. I can put it in my block of usual Christmas movies right up there with fucking Die Hard and Batman Returns.
Mm.
God, I hate this scene.
I know you do. I wonder if I can defend it in any way. I don't think I can, because I don't like it either.
Why are we doing this, Bill? What's the point of it?
Well, I mean, I get it. I mean, it's not like I don't get it. I mean, it's already over. It's just because they genuinely formed a connection and they enjoy each other, and she knows that it's not realistically going to last. So I think that they're both trying to get as much joy out of it in these last moments as they can, and now it's over because now it's on.
Still fucking bullshit.
I did you listen to me? I told you. I agree with you. I know why they did it. It's a good idea at heart. It's not as long as I remember it was, so I don't mind it as much, but it's it's not great. Oh, here we go. See, look, he already climbed up half the building for like by jumping up. Like that was helpful.
Thank fucking God.
I mean, regardless, we still have 22 minutes.
This was one of my favorite Kong levels to play as in the game.
Oh yeah, that was always mad cool. To grab planes and throw them at other planes.
Well, no, the one where he's like fucking actually stomping around the streets of New York and like picking up cars and shit.
This is definitely, just effects-wise, the best visuals of Kong climbing a building we've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Size is consistent. Everything's pretty consistent.
That goes without saying. This movie is actually the first movie that actually made me feel the scale of the Empire State Building. Because, you watch the original Kong and it doesn't feel that big.
Yeah.
Oddly enough. You know what I mean?
I'd have to agree.
This movie, you're up there and you look at the skyline below and you think, Jesus, they're like way up there.
Maybe because of the retrospective nature of, the Empire State Building has been around for 70 years now as opposed to a year. It was in 1933. Maybe that gave them more of an ability to appreciate the scale.
Also the fact that the visual effects.
But obviously Kong's a lot smaller too, so the scale is going to seem a lot grander.
Also 75 years of effects improvement allow you to really get a better feel for like how tall it is and compared to the rest of the skyline.
I really feel a size difference between this Kong and 33 Kong. Like 33 Kong has got to be at least like 10 feet bigger.
I still think he could probably beat 33 Kong in a fight, though, oddly enough, because he's just so scrappy.
I don't know if I agree with that. 33 Kong is definitely more muscular.
Maybe.
I mean, this one's certainly got the agility edge, but I wonder how much of that is just special effects, because it's not like 33 Kong isn't agile.
He ain't got that Kung Fu, though.
He has a little bit of Kung Fu.
What Kung Fu did he ever do?
He, threw that T-Rex over his shoulder at one point. That was pretty lit.
That ain't Kung Fu.
That's Kung Fu.
That ain't even
I think
Hong
you're
Kong
just
Fu.
splitting fucking monkey hairs here, D.
That ain't Kung Fu. That ain't even Hong Kong Fooey.
It's at least as good. It's at least as good as the original Hong Kong Phooey cartoon, or at least that Eddie Murphy Hong Kong Phooey animated trailer that they put out for a movie that never got made. Yeah, this is way too extended. Can we have the planes, please? They never have a scene where they set up the planes in this version.
See, I would be fine with this if not for the fucking ice skating scene a minute ago. We need 2 fucking somber scenes of them connecting. Fuck.
The ice skating scene isn't somber, though. They're differently toned.
Like, either shoot the fucking monkey or have them fuck already. I don't know. Just do something.
I can't say I disagree, D. Peter Jackson somebody else or two of the pilots in the scene to reflect the fact that Marion C. Cooper and Ernest Schoedsack were pilots in the original King Kong during the plane sequence. It's
always been one of my favorite bits of trivia concerning both this and the original.
Well, I fucking stole it from you.
I wonder if what's his fucking name was in one of those helicopters in '76, carrying on the fucking legacy.
What are you talking about?
The fucking director. I wonder if he was in one of the helicopters.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I hope so.
Was it Rick Baker? Didn't Rick Baker get one of the helicopters?
I don't know. Maybe. You don't think John Gillerman gave himself a cameo?
I don't know. I don't know what John Gillerman looks like, so how the fuck would I know?
That's a good point. Me neither. You've blinded me with science, I must admit. Let's see if we can pick out Peter Jackson.
That'd be the fat one.
He wasn't fat at this point.
He wasn't fat?
In 2005, when he made this movie, no, he was actually at his skinniest.
Oh, is this when he lost all that weight?
Yeah.
See, there was Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson, and he was fucking fat. And maybe that's when he lost his edge. He lost his weight, and then all of a sudden he couldn't fucking...
I loved the way you said that, by the way. You had Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson, he was fat.
Is that how I said it?
Yeah. Do it, Daddy.
Was I talking like this? And I suddenly sound like fucking Harvey Firestein.
Do the roar. Do it.
I gotta call my doctor. I gotta call my lawyer. Yeah, forget about my lawyer. I'm pretty sure Peach will be in the plane that actually kills Kong.
Absolutely.
Because that was the whole point behind Marion C. Cooper doing it in the 33 version. It's like, well, we spent all this time bringing the fucking thing to life. Let's fucking kill him.
And he also probably didn't want anybody else to do it because he really loved his creation. I mean, as we talked about in the Son of Kong commentary, he rushed that movie into production because he didn't want any imitators to beat him to the punch to make more.
It also added another level of authenticity since before being a filmmaker, he actually was a fighter pilot.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Marion C. Cooper, that is, not Peach.
I understood.
Okay, yeah.
Not King Kong.
There's not a lot of call for fighter pilots down in New Zealand. Down there, everybody's just sitting on their dicks, you know? I like that we have a pretty clear sense throughout this fight of like where the planes are in relation to Kong.
Yeah, it's at least consistent. His smaller scale allows them to move around the Empire State Building to make more like, you know, interesting visual scenery and shit. But even still, man, I don't know. Oh, wow, he bounced those off pretty easily. If only he can keep doing that. Oh, he took one down. There you go. It's more than he did in 76 and 33. 76, he got one. 76, he got one helicopter, though.
He very nearly killed himself in the process. You see, 76 Kong had a major advantage in that the building he was standing on top of was fucking flat. Like, he had room to maneuver, you know? It didn't stop him from being fucking massacred, but, I don't know.
Yeah, this is, again, a little drawn out. I'd have to say. I feel like he should be more injured at this point, no?
Yeah.
Like, he's been hit a couple times already, and I don't see any blood.
Yeah, he doesn't really get bloody either. Like,
not that we see. I mean, I feel like we see more in 33.
Personally, that's what made the 76 scene so effective for me, partially.
I mean, I agree, yeah. I mean, I think we both agree that that's the best version of this.
The fucking squibs going off, and he's like, it's fucking brutal as hell.
They keep missing him, which I guess is more realistic, but doesn't change the fact that it makes it less brutal. This Kong obviously is a lot more, like, aware and protective of Anne, though, so he doesn't bring her up on top of the building.
That's true.
How many times is Anne gonna keep climbing up this fucking thing? Like, Jesus Christ, we keep cutting back to that.
Use the Force, Peach.
That's what you require. Imagine that's the end-all, be-all thing that ended this movie is, you know, Peter Jackson's ability to use the Force. Oh,
See,
I forgot that happened. That's unfortunate for her. Oh, wow. I would crap my pants.
That's why you should climb up a ladder that's, in the midst of fucking gunfire. Also, maybe start trying to climb down. I know you're hanging, but you could monkey bar that shit.
Speaking of monkey bars...
Wow, there's a lot of debris falling to the ground in this version. Yet more dead people.
Always a welcome sign.
It's like, what the fuck did you come up here for?
Alright, I believe this is the last moment they're going to have together, so this is kind of crucial.
Thank fucking God. Oh, they even went really specific. He's not just a big gorilla. He's a big silverback gorilla.
He wrecks the most planes in this version for sure, though. That's a guarantee. Ow.
What did you just do?
I adjusted my position and I bashed my elbow. I had to sit up straight. It has gotten a bit late over the course of us recording this 3-hour commentary, and I am a little tired, so I don't want to fall asleep on y'all. And this sequence has been drawn out. See, look at how just... Now he's like, oh no, Anne, I think I'm going to die, even though I'm not injured or bloody at all. At least that I can see. And in this version, again, we're showing the difference in scale here. He's standing right on top of the building, unlike 33, who's more kind of hanging off the side because he's too big to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit, he does not look happy, but he doesn't look injured either.
He's almost too big to be pulling this off, honestly, because he keeps almost falling off every time he swipes at a plane.
That's fair. I don't know why. I don't want. Oh, I know why. Because she wants to try and avoid them shooting him.
But they're in fucking biplanes from the fucking 30s. She really banking it all on them having a clear enough image of him to tell that he's holding her or not? Because I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't bank on that.
I think that's why they ultimately think the planes are the best way to do it, because they think they can pick it off. But I would have to agree. Pick him off. I meant to say. Is it the only plane left?
See, it would have been wiser for Kong to actually cling to the side.
I don't think they knew about her.
Like, him standing on top really just made himself an easier target. He should have clung to the sides and, took cover behind it whenever they were cutting, like you do in the game.
Totally. You should do like a Hulk Ultimate Destruction game with King Kong where he just wrecks a city.
That'd be fucking grand.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
Oh, here we go. He's finally slipping. See, when did he even get hit? I didn't even see. Wishy-washy.
I think he's about to get hit again. Right now he's just weak as fuck. But I think they hit him again in the back, don't they? I seem to have a memory of that unless my mind's just fucking with me.
We'll see what happens. I mean, we are watching it. But I think you're right.
He looks like fucking, what was the gorilla's name in fucking Rise of the Planet of the Apes? Is that supposed to be Aldo?
His name is Buck.
Buck.
They do look a little similar. I mean, it's the same visual effects company. So,
What to do, though?
Are scenes like this giving off that overdeveloped relationship element to you?
I mean, it's better than the fucking ice skating sequence.
Ooh, that's brutal. That's probably the most brutal bit of this entire sequence.
He probably tagged him in the ass a few times on that run. He had it hanging out there.
But yeah, his face really shifting when bullets hit. That impacted me right now. Ooh.
I think he just took a tail right out the poop chute, man.
Yeah, he looks really depressed. That's fair, given what just happened to him. Or
as Deadpool would say, right up Main Street.
Mm-hmm. CGI in this is still really good, though. Really holding up is amazing. Wow. It's bizarre how much of this mirrors the original and then how much of it just goes way off. Just because of how long this movie is. You got to fill out another hour and 45 minutes of screen time.
What's interesting is this version of Kong is clearly dead before he even falls off the top of the building. Every other version, I always get the idea that he dies from the fall. I mean, that's explicit in 76 because his heart's still beating when you go down there.
Mm-hmm. There were 2 planes left. My bad.
This version of Kong, though, man, he's dead. He is so dead just before he falls off and you see his fucking pupil relax.
She's an angel. Yeah, good. Follow her to the very top of the Empire State Building. This will go great for everybody involved.
Y'all should get down from there. In real life, the winds up here are a little bit more sheer than what we're seeing.
Yeah, this is some of the more fantastic elements, I imagine. See, like the original, that's pretty much it for Kong. I don't think we see much of him on the ground. Like not nearly as much as 76.
No. Do we? Yeah, I guess we do at the very end. I was going to say, do we even cut back to him lying on the ground?
Well, we see the same similar shots as 33, like behind and up close and shit. We'll see. We're about to see it. It's a little extended, I think. Yeah. Okay. We get a much better look at it in this version. It is very similar to 7. That moment's in 76.
I love the photographer's fucking climbing up on his chest to get a face shot.
Yeah, that's in 76. That's awesome.
The fucking y'all didn't do shit posing in front of this Kong.
I like that too. Yeah.
Damn Coast Guard.
National Guard, you mean? There's Orson Welles now.
I played a toy in a children's cartoon.
Here's his big realization moment. See, so what do you take away from that? Obviously, I think that delivery is more kind of natural with what he's realizing in that moment, but I don't know if what he's realizing in the context of the story that we have. In 33, I think it makes more sense because that was more directly the theme of Carl Denham's movie. In this, it's just kind of like, well, I guess the fact that he wanted the girl killed him. I don't know. But wow, D, we made it.
It's fucking over.
King
yeah,
Kong.
we know who directed it. We know who directed it.
We're very aware. So
you don't have to tell me that shit.
So King Kong from 2005. Dylan, what did you think this time?
Pretty much what I said at the beginning. I think it's just way too long. I like so much of what it does, but it just takes so long to do it.
I'd have to agree. It definitely runs out of steam towards the end, or at least it chugs its audience along so much that its audience runs out of steam, and just can't get there at the end with it.
I think the second act is definitely the highlight. But man,
yeah, all the stuff on the island is awesome. Everything else is really, really, really hit or miss.
Getting to the island is a slog, and then fucking after the rampage in New York, man, wait a.
It's just a head scratching series of events, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, really, really mixed bag, but it's got a lot of bright spots in it. I think I more respect it than I do like it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
But I will always have a lot of nostalgia for it. It'll always have a lot of impact on me. Visually, it's a tour de force, and there's a lot of sequences in it that'll always be very iconic to me. I'll always have a very nostalgic and warm feeling for it, but it's not a very watchable film. So, D, that is it for the week of Kong. What a fucking
Yes.
journey, and what a way to end it, right?
If anybody has followed us through this adventure, you are now far more prepared for the release of Kong Skull Island tomorrow, from your point of view.
Which one was your favorite? So which one is the one that Kong Skull Island has to top to really be your favorite King Kong movie?
Ooh. See, I go back and forth constantly between 33 and 76, and those two are so close to me, partially because of nostalgia on the part of 76, but even still, I go kind of back and forth on those two, so it's sort of a tie.
I always say 33 because of the pacing, and I had the same experience this time. 33 was definitely my favorite of all the ones we watched. And I had the best experience with that this time. Followed up by the Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla, then 76. And then after that, I'm not sure. I don't want to rank them all now. That sounds boring. Oh, I guess I should also say, is King Kong 05 better or worse than Ghostbusters 2? Ooh. Okay, it's slightly better than Ghostbusters 2, I'll say. At least from a technical standpoint and from a conceptual standpoint, it has similar problems, though, in terms of execution. Not laziness, though, just over-ambition and execution and ideas not matching up. But overall, kids, that is it for the week of Kong. We hope that you enjoyed, and we hope that you had a different and an enjoyable experience with all the King Kong films that we watched. Maybe you watched some that you've never seen before and got our perspectives on them, as well as formed your own perspective through the lens of our own and watching the films on your own. And we hope that you watched the movies with the commentaries because, again, I definitely think that gives a much more direct and enjoyable context for what we're saying. But definitely...
Phil, if you don't mind, no, finish what you were saying.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that was pretty much it. What were you going to say? Because I was going to wrap up after that.
Oh, well, actually, if you don't mind, I have something I can read here that I think serves as a pretty good way to wrap it up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Go for it.
At the end of the book that I've been using as research material for this series, again, one last time, it's called King Kong, The History of a Movie Icon from Fay Wray to Peter Jackson by Ray Morton. I would definitely recommend anybody to go buy it. It's still on Amazon. I'm going to have to buy a new copy of it at some point because mine is falling apart. Anyway, at the end of the book, he has a short little conclusion here. And obviously this was written at the time with the '05 film in mind, but I think it fits our current situation as well. It says, it has now been more than 75 years since Marion C. Cooper first conceived of his giant terror gorilla. Since that time, the great ape has appeared in classics and he has appeared in duds. In the process, he has transcended celluloid and become an indelible part of our cultural landscape. As we prepare to welcome him back to the screen, we know that Kong has become, quite literally, bigger than all of us. Long live the king.
Perfect. I mean, man, I used to buy magnets in New York City with King Kong climbing the Empire State Building all the time. He is ingrained in our pop culture. He is immortal, I guess is the best way to say it. Maybe that's as sappy as this movie, 05. So
you could write a whole nother book at least as long as this one if you just track down all the fucking cultural references over the years.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Totally. So there is no questioning or summing up the cultural impact of King Kong or what exactly it all means. As they say in Citizen Kane, you can't sum up a man's life in a single word. You can't sum up a giant, unrealistic ape's life in a single word. Because it didn't actually happen, so, So, wow, Dylan, this is a pretty emotional journey, so, I hope you had a good time with it. I certainly did.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, we may be done with the Week of Kong, but at some point in the future, we will, of course, be posting commentaries for Kong Skull Island. That'll be whenever the fucking Blu-ray comes out later on in the year. And at some point, we will in person do one for fucking the Mighty Kong, I guess.
Yeah, whenever we get that on VHS, so that'll be the addendum to this as well. But we hope that you enjoyed us. You enjoyed joining us for this 7-day-long journey through most of the King Kong feature films. Doing these commentaries. Again, this was a different way to do this. We didn't do strictly reviews. We kind of reviewed and also kind of discussed and informed as we were watching the films, and we thought that would be a more enjoyable and more relaxed and laid-back way to do it, so we hope you enjoyed. So definitely let us know how it turned out. But it's mad late, we're really tired, and it is time to end the recording of the Week of Kong and actually post the Week of Kong, because it is actually as we're recording this, the first day that they're supposed to be posted. So we hope you, again, enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the future for more podcasts and all kinds of other stuff. Until next time, everyone, I'm Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
And I'm Super DM64.
And we were millionaires, boys. We'll share it with all of you. But we're all out of money in King Kong movies. Oh, shit, they gotta make more.